What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new live episode of A-Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC television, and movie news, as we're going to be breaking down 6 incredible topics for you guys today, some honorable mentions, along with your guys' live viewer questions. We got our very first big Spider-Man 4 casting news that we're going to be talking about with you guys today. James Gunn is now also feeling a ton of pressure for Superman to succeed. We're going to be diving into that a little bit more as well. One of my favorite action movies, The Raid, the director Gareth Evans is in fact back with a brand new Netflix film with Tom Hardy. We're going to be talking about that and a ton more. So sit back, relax, grab your coffee, and enjoy the rest of the show. We'll see you on the other side. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of A-Plus Hero Report, streaming live for you guys today over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. It's good to see everybody here once again. Another fantastic afternoon wherever you guys are. I am your host, Adam Perez, joined none other but my co-host, Stuart Branscombe, in the house. What's going on, buddy?
Not much at all.
Hey, man.
I do love that new countdown that we have, the music that we were playing, and also even the graphic that we had with it looking like a comic book. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I did that last night. I was getting the stream ready and I was making sure, do we have everything? And then I saw the 30-second countdown and I'm like, I'm not gonna make that mistake again of pushing the button and it'd be something that we don't want. So I found a really cool 30-second countdown. I thought some really catchy music to keep to start off the show with and whatnot. So glad you liked it, man. I was gonna ask how you felt about it, but I'm glad you approved.
Yeah, loved it.
So yeah, that will be something that we stick around with for going forward. But yeah, man, look, guys, we got a big show for you guys today. It's fantastic. A little mixture of MCU, DCU, and some movie and television news, which I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about. We got some really great honorable mentions too, I think, worth certainly exploring. How's your week been, Stuart? How's the movie business going? Any good movies out that you've seen that you want to talk about, or box office wise? What's going on over there?
Finally saw Mickey 17, and wow, that was an awesome film.
I think you had fun with it?
I did, yeah. I think this movie has made Robert Pattinson one of my all-time favorite actors now. He was so good in it. And it's just a really fun sci-fi premise, and they have a lot of fun with it. Something that does not get brought up enough, though, is how adorable those aliens are that the Mark Ruffalo's character, the creepers that Mark Ruffalo wants to exterminate. It's like, they're adorable, though. Why would you do that? So I loved it. Currently out, we have Novocaine, which every time I hear
want to see that.
Every time I hear that title, I just think Dovahkiin from Skyrim. I just think Dragonborn. It has not been selling good at all at our theater.
No?
Like, we have it in our big theater, and I think the most we've had so far sold for that movie is 60 tickets. So I haven't seen it yet, but I assume, because people are praising it, that it's a good movie, and I hope to see it after this weekend. But yeah, surprisingly, it's not doing very well.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things from people that have seen Novocaine so far. So that is my next film that I'm looking forward to diving into. I did go and see Mickey 17. It just didn't work for me, man. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know what it is. I will say, I will agree with you. Robert Pattinson is great in this film. Absolutely great in this film. I loved him being able to play the roles that he was able to in here. I actually really enjoyed Mark Ruffalo as sort of their president, even the overtopness to him, just like it really worked for me. I definitely laughed a lot. I had fun with this movie. I'm not gonna sit here and say it was a terrible film or anything like that. I had fun with it. I guess there's a part of me that was hoping I would enjoy it a little bit more than I would. Like, I already kind of got the premise of like capitalism and the idea of like, us as workers just continuing to literally like work us to death to the point of just manufacturing people and whatnot. But I don't know. I guess I was just hoping for a little bit more than what we got. But I feel like there are probably deeper meanings in this movie that maybe I personally am missing out on. But just like a fun sci-fi, it hit that mark for me. But coming off of Parasite, I guess I wanted something a little bit more impactful than what we wind up having. But it was okay for me. It was okay for me.
Okay.
But
I will say this, definitely not on the same level as Parasite. I definitely enjoyed that one a lot more, but I also just I think I just had so much fun with this because I love sci-fi, and I love it when people take like, simple premises, but they get like very philosophical with it. Like they try to go with a realistic like mindset of what would people, how would people react to this type of technology. And something I always love is that like you have Star Trek, which kind of goes over almost every sci-fi concept you can imagine Star Trek is covered, but they often go with a positive view on like how this would be. And I love how it feels like every other sci-fi out there that isn't Star Trek loves to go the opposite route, loves to go like the okay, now how would we abuse this technology if it actually existed in real life?
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, look, if you guys have had the opportunity to check out Mickey 17, certainly go ahead and let us know some of your thoughts in regards to the film itself. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And look, guys, as we go through this particular week's episode, remember, these are simply just our A+ opinions, but we always certainly want to know yours. So as we go through topics, discussion points, if you have opinions and thoughts on your own, throw them in the live chat. Feel free to go ahead and comment. We'd love to have conversation and discussion with you guys throughout the course of today's show. We also have officially set up a goal for today's show. If you want to go ahead and support the channel monetarily, we do have super chats, super images certainly available for you guys on there. We don't have any sponsors or anything like that, so we really do grow with your guys' support. If we get 5 super chats of any amount through the rest of this entirety of the show, we're probably going to hold an exclusive Q&A session with myself tomorrow evening, Monday, at about 8 p.m. Central Time. So if you would like to get an additional sort of Ask Me Anything Q&A, 5 super chats will certainly help achieve that goal for us. But if you can't help us out monetarily, don't worry. Hit that like button, share this video, let people certainly know that we're live. We're talking about some incredible topics here today. Stuart, let's go ahead and kick off the show, shall we?
Heck yes.
And we're going to get into our honorable mentions portion of the show. Pretty much topics that didn't quite make our top 6, but definitely felt warranted for you guys to certainly know about and bring to your attention. Stuart, I don't know if you have an honorable mention or if there's anything in the honorable mentions you want to talk about already.
Just a rumor, and I want to stress the rumor aspect of this, but you know how we've been hearing a lot about how there is a Bane and Deathstroke movie in development.
Yeah.
So supposedly the inside source says that it's actually going to be a Secret Six movie, which would feature the two of them as part of the members of the crew. Modern comic books with the Secret Six usually involve characters that relate to the Suicide Squad. And given that that's the kind of world that James Gunn is really like kind of delving into with Peacemaker and Amanda Waller, I could easily see that being like the direction that they go in terms of like, maybe we have like one part of the DC world where we're following the good guys, one part where we're following the bad guys. That could be one way in which he explores that area of the DC universe. But again, rumor, so we don't know if this is true or not. But if it is true, I think that'd be kind of a cool direction to take it.
Yeah, I kind of actually love the sound of that. I do wonder if people will get to the point of thinking to themselves like, man, this feels a little bit too much like another Suicide Squad film or not. The idea of putting together a bunch of rando characters and whatnot. Are we over the group team ups at this point, or do you think a Secret Six has room?
I think there's room for the Secret Six. I think like it makes sense that you don't want to go back directly to Suicide Squad, because I feel like after you had kind of 2 Suicide Squad movies before that are being referenced currently, but technically aren't canon. I think it would just be easier to not use the Suicide Squad for a little while, and then just go with like alternative names. I think that's kind of the smarter move at the moment.
Gotcha. I gotcha. That'd be pretty cool. I'd be open for a Secret Six concept. I don't know if it would be as over the top as something like a Suicide Squad movie, but it'd be interesting to see the group of characters that they wind up putting on that team. I feel like we've seen several iterations of them before, like the team having different members over the years. I wonder if this is an opportunity for like Idris Elba to maybe return as like Deadshot or something like that.
I would love him to come back. That'd be sick.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But a cool honorable mention. Another honorable mention, guys. If you haven't had the opportunity, our Daredevil Born Again episode 3 review is currently up on the YouTube page. We dropped this, I think, on Thursday morning for you guys, trying to be a little bit more on time with our Daredevil reviews. But I did go ahead and drop that on for episode 3. So if you want to hear my personal thoughts on it, it is on our YouTube channel. Certainly go ahead and check it out. Did you have the chance to check out episode 3, Stuart?
I did. I absolutely love how meta they're getting with, just kind of like real world people and like the way they view a character in a certain way that they should not view it. Trying to think of how to say it without spoiling anything. Although I'm pretty sure at this point everyone already probably knows. But yeah, I absolutely love where they're going with the story. I still think my biggest issue with the show was the marketing again, because the type of show that we're getting now, it's a good show, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely not the type of show that they were advertising, because this feels like, kind of like the title indicates, it's a Born Again. This is a full-on reboot of Daredevil. I wouldn't really call it, in the way they were kind of marketing it, they were like, oh no, this is going to feel like Daredevil season 4. It does not in any way, shape, or form. This is a reboot, and that is fine. I just wish they were more transparent about that going in. And again, it's a good show and everything, and I have nothing against them kind of rebooting it, still keeping the first 3 seasons as canon, but yeah, no, this does not feel like Daredevil season 4.
Yeah, it's I will say, after watching season 3 before watching this, it does feel a little bit night and day. I am going to give this show opportunity to breathe a little bit. I think the benefit of Netflix is it's such a bingeable show. And the idea of watching Daredevil week to week just feels different, right? Like impact wise, it just feels a little bit different in regards to like pacing and things like that. So I will be curious to go back and watch Born Again and see if it works better as a bingeable series or kind of week to week. But it definitely feels different than even rewatching a season 3 for sure. So there are definitely elements in here that I heard that the first 15 minutes of episode 1 is what they had originally filmed for before all the reshoots happened, and then after those 15 minutes is a lot of the new sort of material that they wind up filming. Because when I go back and think about it, the first 15 minutes do feel significantly different than what we've gotten so far for the rest of the season. But I am a fan of like the court drama, the procedural aspect, seeing Matt Murdock, working a trial sort of thing. But yeah, it definitely has a different vibe to it than the Netflix series for sure, but one that I'm really enjoying so far. See, I have a feeling this show is going to continue to get better week to week to week, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I also think it's funny, you bring up the whole thing of they coming out week to week compared to the Netflix shows, and it just made me remember that, like, yeah, I think Daredevil was the show that kind of popularized binging. I mean, it's the first show I can remember.
It might be right
when it came out, but I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure that show was what popularized it. So it is kind of ironic that now they're going to the week to week formula.
Yeah, absolutely. But so yeah, guys, check out our episode 3 review on our YouTube channel when you get the chance. We also did get ourselves a brand new poster for Sinners. This is set to go ahead and drop, I think, in April. Is there a date on here? I don't see a date on this one unless I'm overlooking it, but I do believe it comes out in April. They have started doing a marketing routine for it. If you guys haven't had the chance, it is they did drop like an interview with Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan, answering some questions and learning a little bit more about each other. It was pretty funny stuff. I really love their connection for sure. I can see why they enjoy working with each other as much as they certainly do. But yeah, Sinners is they dropped this poster and then they dropped a bunch of character posters. So yeah, the marketing push has in fact begun. We also got Percy Jackson news for you guys today. Percy Jackson season 3 has been renewed, or it has received a renewal from Disney Plus. I do believe they're supposed to be dropping season 2 relatively soon. I'm not sure when the release date is, but I think we did hear from the showrunner saying that they had already begun the writing room for season 3, even though they hadn't gotten the renewal at the time. But now they have the renewal officially, which is, I think, what he was hoping for, considering the fact that these kids are getting older and they're growing up, and you want to get them in front of the camera kind of as soon as possible. So Percy Jackson season 3 has in fact been renewed. So we're getting more Percy.
It was it's so funny because I was having a conversation about this with a coworker yesterday, because we were talking about with The Last of Us, and it's like the benefits of hiring an adult to play like a kid is that you don't have to worry about them aging too fast. But it also means that if you, like with season 2 of The Last of Us, if you have a time gap, it's going to be noticeable how like the actor doesn't really look that much different compared to the last time. So when you're trying to tell us, oh yeah, 3 years have passed, but comparatively, you get shows like Percy Jackson now, where yeah, same thing. You got like the thing with aging kids, but this also, while it's good because it means you get to watch them kind of like grow up, with the character, it also means you're on a tight schedule. Like it means that, okay, we got to film this now before, you're too old and we have someone who's in their 30s playing 18-year-old, and then it's going to look weird,
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, it's always like funny, like with that kind of like I always wonder like if the writers are the ones that have to consider that, or if it's the production company, or if it's like a mixture of the two, how that gets like thought of when you're writing a series like this. And I'm curious, like same thing with Harry Potter when that comes out.
I am kind of curious how they're going to pull that off. I mean, especially with them wanting to do 10 seasons of it, I do wonder if they're going to be very much sort of recording like network television, in the sense of like, you guys are going to be at work every year, you know what I'm saying? Like filming something for a significant amount of time to kind of knock out as many as they can. So we'll see. But yeah, Percy Jackson season 3 has in fact been renewed. We're also getting details about Spider-Noir. Let me see. It was the one of the actors, Lucas Haas, wind up giving us an update. He was speaking with ComingSoon.net and hinted that Spider-Noir may actually be released in black and white as well as color. He says it was just an incredible project. Everybody involved was amazing. Brendan Gleeson, he plays my boss. Just getting to do that noir thing, it was very genuine film noir, the way that they filmed it, like the long shadows. He says, we filmed it. I think it may come out in both black and white and color, but when we filmed it, the monitors were all black and white. So you get this feeling, and it looked very, very authentic, to the point to what I would actually go and look at the monitor and think I was looking at some older footage, but it was actually just a monitor that was the same, that was on the camera at the time. They did a beautiful job with the filters and all that stuff, making it look like genuine old 1930s black and white film. But obviously just the writing, and Nick is incredible. It's just a really fun project, and I cannot wait to see how it turns out. So, Stuart, one of the things that I was saying before when they announced this, I said it would be an absolute crime if this show is not in black and white, especially if you're going to be going the film noir, the detective noir route. And so it seems like that's exactly what we might be getting in here. Would you prefer the option of black and white and color, or do you think the black and white works? Like, what would your preference be?
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely say that a Spider-Noir should be in black and white if I was directing it. So I like that they're going that route. I know a lot of people, it was weird because they saw the photo shoots of it, and they were like worried it was going to be in color. And it was like, these aren't like shots from the actual show. You guys realize that, right? So yeah, this actually makes me really happy, especially like seeing the costume, like, because we've already seen photos of it so far, and it looks really incredible. So I can't wait to see what that's going to look like in black and white. Yeah, I'm so excited for this series.
Me too. I'm really excited for this series. The fact that they are making it feel like genuine noir, especially I love what he mentioned about the long shadows, and the filters that they're kind of using. So yeah, I have a lot of hope for this show. Let me see. John Wick 5 is a possibility. One of the producers, I'm trying to see who they spoke with. The John Wick franchise refuses to die, with Jennifer Brown, the EVP and head of global products and experiences at Lionsgate, confirmed that a new sequel in the saga is on the way. She said the world continues to grow and expand in incredible ways. Up next, of course, we have Ballerina, which is our first spin-off movie, and we can't wait for that to release to the world. Of course, we've announced we're working on a 5th John Wick film. I think there are more spinoffs to come, a TV series, video game, etc. So John Wick 5, a possibility. I think we've teased the idea that they've talked about it a little bit. We've heard interviews from Chad Stahelski, and I don't know if we've heard from Keanu Reeves or anything like that. But last time I heard, Chad said, they were working on a John Wick 5, but nothing had been sort of official yet. Trying to figure out, like, if we want to do this, how are we going to do this? Keanu Reeves continues to get older. Do you think a John Wick 5 is necessary, Stuart?
No. Have you seen John Wick 4?
I haven't, but I hear that he quote unquote dies at the end of this thing, but
it's the only thing him dying. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, some people say, like, it feels like it could be left up in the air though, as to whether or not he's dead or not. Do you think so?
No,
he feels pretty like,
it would make, okay, if he lived at the end of it, it would make me dislike the writing for 4. And the reason is because, like all the other movies, yes, he to an extent does have a lot of plot armor, sure. But in John Wick 4, they really play up the plot armor like hard with how much of a beating that he takes, and he keeps getting up, which I was okay with because he eventually died at the end. So I think it's okay to have plot armor to an extent, but there has to be a consequence at some point, like towards the end. And I think it worked with John Wick 4 because he died. It's like, you know what? I'm okay with this plot armor. He dies at the end. If they bring him back, that kind of ruins it, and it makes John Wick 4 a really bad written movie,
I get you.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, it's still on my list of things that I have to that I still have to watch, man. I've watched all the other John Wick ones, but for some reason I have not. It's on streaming. It's available now. So I need to make it a point to certainly check out for sure.
Yeah, it's fun. You just gotta go in with the mindset of you need to watch something, like you just gotta like want to watch something where someone just punches people, and it's great.
That feels like a everyday thing. I should be willing to do that. Guy Gardner is in the news. Gotta love that bowl cut, man. Nathan Fillion was talking with TV Guide, and they asked him what sets Guy Gardner apart from all the past iterations of Green Lanterns. Fillion says he's a jerk. What's important to know is you don't have to be good to be a Green Lantern. You just have to be fearless. So Guy Gardner is fearless, and he is not very good. He's not nice, which is very freeing as an actor, because you just think to yourself, what is the most selfish, self-serving thing I can do in this moment? And that's the answer. That's what you do in that moment. I think if he has a superpower, it might be his overconfidence, and that he thinks he could take on Superman. He can't. So yeah, I'm intrigued by his breakdown of his version of Guy Gardner here, and how he plans on tackling this one for sure.
I want him to try to pick a fight with Superman. I hope that happens now after hearing that in an interview.
Yeah, like I do wonder if he challenges him, or if he like tries to get all up in his grill at some point in time in this movie, showcasing that overconfidence a little bit. So yeah, we'll definitely have to see. I think as of right now, I'm under the impression CinemaCon is going to be the big moment for Superman. I feel the way that they are promoting it, it feels like we're going to get not only a big Superman sort of cast lineup, maybe doing Q&A coming up on there. I think we're going to get ourselves a brand new, like an official trailer for Superman. Yeah, I think April's going to be a good year of good month of marketing for Superman, to certainly say the least. So CinemaCon, I am expecting a release for the trailer, and I think like April 18th or something like that is like a Superman day. So I am expecting like even more teases or promo events, behind the scenes featurettes type of stuff, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, April's going to be a good month for Superman, I think.
Definitely. I hope we get a trailer with just a little bit more dialogue.
Yeah. I have a feeling that if anything, I think this will probably be the story-heavy sort of trailer that we wind up getting, giving us an idea of some of the characters, some of the plot synopsis a little bit more. Also, I always feel official teasers are just like the hype machine. first official trailers are usually the ones dense with some sort of story concepts to give you an understanding of what the movie's about. And I always feel like the second trailer tends to be like the action trailer, like another sort of hype machine vessel, if you will. So we'll see. I do expect 2 additional trailers from Superman. And then last but not least, Stuart, I don't know if you saw this, man. The Toxic Avenger is in the news. We officially have ourselves a poster for the Toxic Avenger here. The release date is in fact set for August 29th. August 29th, this will in fact be hitting theaters. I don't know how widespread or nationwide of a release this is going to be, but the Toxic Avenger is set for August 29th. And not only did we get a poster, but Entertainment Weekly gave us brand new first look images, baby.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, of the costume, of the design, all practical in here too. Maybe they'll have some CGI enhancements and stuff, but from some of the interviews that I've seen, they've talked about this being a practical suit. Like you can even see some of the like the things bubbling on his head and on his arms and stuff. Like I do wonder if it's animatronic in some aspects as well. But yeah, this is our very first look at the Toxic Avenger.
I love it. I love the original like Toxic Avenger movie. It was, it's really bad, but it's just entertaining as hell, just like anything produced by Troma. You just when you go into Troma, you got to know that they are going to try to gross you out. Like every Troma film, it's like all about the gross out humor, and I'm there for it. So I'm excited to see if they try to like bring that back in this movie. I can't remember who's directing it, but I do know that we got Peter Dinklage playing the Toxic Avenger, and oh man, I'm excited to see how he does.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how Peter Dinklage does also. So yeah, guys, those are our first look at the Toxic Avenger. Let us know some of your thoughts. Again, finally releasing August 29th. Let's go to the live chat real quick. We got some people that are joining us here today live. We got Blossom in the house. What's up, Blossom? Always good to certainly see you around these parts. Ram Jam, how's it going? I have once again submitted my live viewer questions through Gmail. Okay, remind me, Stuart. Gmail is where he's at right now. Marcelino is here also. Well, the writers of Superman literally pitched the season 7 or of Supergirl literally pitched the season 7 without Supergirl. So doing John Wick 5 without John Wick is plausible. I mean, maybe it is plausible. I mean, I do find them as 2 completely different characters, but the idea of a season or a movie without the I mean, I think it's plausible, but I am curious if they could still make it as impactful as past John Wick films without him in here. I did hear somebody pitch this idea of like, if Keanu Reeves is getting older and he can't do as much, like maybe some of this stuff is kind of like flashback oriented, like maybe or goes back and forth, present day, and then maybe getting somebody like hiring a new actor to play like a younger sort of John Wick for like flashback sequences that might include action pieces too. Like there's a part of me that I don't know if John Wick 4 ever covered this. Did they ever show like the mission in which he got out of being an assassin for his wife?
Nope, they never physically show it. They only just like talk about it through dialogue. So if that was the direction they wanted to take, I'd be totally fine with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that particular mission, or maybe like past missions of how he helped the Holly Berry character's daughter. Did they highlight that either?
No, yeah, everything. I think everything in his past is always mentioned through dialogue, never through flashbacks. So if they wanted to, they have full flexibility there, and I think they did that on purpose. I think they did it for this exact purpose of if they ever wanted to go back there, they didn't limit themselves basically.
Yeah, I mean, those are 2 like big John Wick adventures I personally would like love to see actually kind of fleshed out a little bit more. And if you can somehow manage to do that in flashback sequences while also telling a coherent story, yeah, man, I'm game for that for sure.
Mm.
But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Billy, what's up, Billy? Hey, Stuart and Adam, have you seen the live action Lilo and Stitch official trailer that came out? We should have highlighted that in honorable mentions. I didn't bring that up, but I watched it, Stuart, and I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know why I feel that way though.
Oh, it's just because I just feel that of every live action Disney movie at this point. I mean, I'll give the trailer credit though. I do think the alien designs look really good. But yeah, I've just been disappointed almost like every time a live action Disney movie comes out, with the exception, of course, of funny enough, Cruella and Maleficent, because at least they're not trying to remake the original; they're doing something completely different. I think what I hate so much about the live action Disney, sorry, this is going to be a little bit of a tangent. What I hate so much about the live action Disney remakes is that they take elements from the original, but then they try to put their own spin on it, but it doesn't work because those elements that they take had a very specific purpose. And when you're trying to do your own thing with that purpose, it just doesn't mesh as well as like, the writers often think it does. And so I'm just worried it'll happen like that with Lilo and Stitch. One thing I will say, I get why they changed this. I totally do, because I don't think the gag would have been as funny in live action, or it would have just been too over the top in live action. I'm a little disappointed that for the two aliens, I totally forgot their names, that they use holographic imagery to disguise themselves instead of just human clothes on top of them, because to me that was one of the funniest things in Lilo and Stitch. That was like one of my favorite gags in that movie, is that they just like, they look like aliens still, but like no one acknowledges it. They're just like, oh yeah, you're definitely a human. Here it's like, obviously in live action, people are it's gonna look even dumber. So I feel like they were just too afraid to like take that joke to live action. I get it. I'm still kind of disappointed by it though.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah, I don't know what it is, man. It just didn't hit for me, honestly. I haven't really cared for the marketing and stuff leading up to this trailer either. Um, when the trailer begins, I'm thinking to myself, like, am I watching the right trailer? Like, I felt like I was watching the animated film for a second. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, now this is live action, okay. But yeah, it just didn't hit for me. So yeah, if you guys are excited for the Lilo and Stitch live action, I'm really glad for you guys. I wish I had that same level of excitement for sure. Marcelino says some people say they refuse to support Toxic Avenger because they don't want to support Peter Dinklage after his comments made on the dwarves and Snow White.
I was still going to say this. I don't think he actually had any impact on that film. I think Disney made up their mind of going with CG dwarfs long before that interview with Peter Dinklage. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't think he had as much say over the movie as a lot of people give him credit for,
Oh yeah, no, I get you. Ramjam, I've been having trouble submitting live viewer questions on the post tab. So again, I'm submitting it. Okay, yeah, we got you, Ramjam. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. I don't know why it's been giving you such a hard time, bro, to submit stuff over on the post. But yeah, we'll definitely work on that for sure. All right, guys. And yeah, if you do have any Ramses' Toxic movie poster looks pretty cool. Yeah, I agree. I am actually a really big fan of this poster, to be honest with you. Yeah, guys, look, if you also still have some time, if you want to go ahead and submit a live viewer question over, you certainly can. Go over to our YouTube page, click on that post tab. It used to be the community tab. It's now the post tab. And there is a post for live viewer questions. And then we'll get to them at the end of today's show. Remember, guys, if you want to submit help out monetarily, feel free to go ahead and submit a super chat, super sticker, super image, whatever they're calling them over there. If we get 5 super chats today, we will be holding an exclusive Q&A session tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Myself specifically, like an Ask Me Anything Q&A. So if you want to help us out monetarily, feel free to. If not, hit that like button, guys. Trust me, it does go a long way. Stuart, are you ready to get into today's topics with me, man?
Always.
Let's do it. Let's go ahead and kick off today's show. We got some great topics, man. We got 6 incredible topics we're going to be diving into. And as you guys can see, our headline topic is Spider-Man 4. If I'm not mistaken, Stuart, I think this is like our first big casting news that we've had for Spider-Man 4. It definitely makes it feel like we're one step closer to production getting underway for this. I don't know. I think production's supposed to start sometime this summer, so I certainly expect to hear a lot more casting announcements. But the big news this week, man, for is Spider-Man 4. It looks as though they have officially cast none other than Sadie Sink herself to be in Spider-Man 4. You'll most notably know her from her recent time in Stranger Things. I believe she actually just had another movie that just released here or plans on releasing here relatively soon for you guys to check out. She was also in the most recent Fear Street movie trilogy. I believe she was in the second film, if I'm not mistaken, going back to the 80s. She was part of, she was one of the camp member, if I'm not mistaken. Also, I thought she was phenomenal in that. And that film for Fear Street is really what kind of opened my eyes to Sadie Sink's talent outside of Stranger Things. But she has officially been cast in Spider-Man 4. And Stuart, the rumors are rampant right now, man. People have been trying to figure out who she is certainly going to play. If you guys have been following us the past couple of weeks, there have been really strong rumors out there suggesting that Sadie Sink has in fact been cast as Jean Grey in the MCU for the upcoming X-Men films. So her announcement here in Spider-Man 4 definitely piqued the interest of many, trying to figure out exactly who she will in fact be playing. But I think the question is certainly still up in the air, Stuart, as to whether or not those rumors are true, or if she's been cast to play somebody else entirely. Let's go ahead and dive into this this article here. This comes to us from let me see what we got. Deadline. Deadline.com. Stranger Things star Sadie Sink joins Tom Holland in the next Spider-Man movie. I'm going to switch this around here, get some color added to this show. Let's go ahead and dive into this, man. It says exclusive. With production set to start later this year on the next installment of Spider-Man franchise, series star Tom Holland looks to have found a new co-star who is no quote-unquote stranger. See what they did there? To popular IP. I swear, I feel like Deadline has got like the corniest dad jokes and the most terrible lines sometimes. Sources tell Deadline that Stranger Things star Sadie Sink is set to join the sequel. Holland is already set to star as Spider-Man. Marvel and Sony had no comment. Destin Daniel Cretton is directing this film. I wonder who the writer is. As for who Sink will be playing, the prevailing theory is she'll be introduced as X-Men character Jean Grey. But don't count out the idea that she shows up as another beloved redhead Spider-Man character. What is known is that the role will be a significant one, given how the most recent film, Spider-Man No Way Home, concluded with Peter making the decision to complete Doctor Strange's spell that erases his identity from the world. By staying on track with that plot line, one can expect Holland's old castmates to have reduced roles while newcomers are added to the ensemble, with Sink being the first major new role. Holland is currently filming The Odyssey, and the plan is for him to start shooting Spider-Man once he's wrapped production on Nolan's pick. For Sink, the role comes on the heels of her saying goodbye to the part that helped launch her career in Stranger Things. Sink can be seen in the Searchlight musical Odessa. Yes, that's the film I'm talking about, Odessa, which just had its world premiere at South by Southwest. Sink earned strong reviews for her performance, and the film is set to bow next week on Hulu. So that's definitely on my radar to certainly check out.
Is Odessa a rock opera? Because that's kind of the vibes I'm getting
Yes.
from. That's
Yes.
awesome. Okay,
Yes.
cool. I'm interested now.
Yeah, it's definitely the rock opera. You should check out the trailer if you haven't seen it. It looks incredible. Sadie Sink looks great. It looks like she's really like showcasing her range in the Odessa film for sure. So yeah, so Sadie Sink joins the cast. We did get some additional information here, and we'll come back to this article in just a second. We did get some additional information presented to us from comingsoon.net just to make sure we have all our facts straight here. More Sadie Sink casting potential character. So it says new details have emerged regarding who Sadie Sink could play. Jeff Schneider, the insider, Hollywood insider, notes that according to his understanding, Sony's arrangement with Marvel requires the latter to provide each Spider-Man movie with a major MCU character. So we had Iron Man in Homecoming, Nick Fury in Far From Home, and Doctor Strange in No Way Home. I didn't know that that was part of their contract. That's kind of interesting. Sync playing Jean Grey would certainly satisfy that deal point, is what he says. However, Snyder also noted that when I reached out to a source to ask if Sync was playing Jean, they suggested that having Jean in Spider-Man 4 may require Sony to give Lauren Schuler Donner a producing credit and fee, which Sony would be unlikely to agree to. Donner wasn't mentioned in Deadline's story alongside producers. It also says, if this thing will stop acting up on me, should Sync not play Jean Grey, of Mary Jane variant or Gwen Stacy, Snyder said two other possibilities could either be Firestar or Felicia Hardy as Black Cat. So they're just throwing out some other suggestions here if she is in fact not playing Jean Grey. So yeah, I found this kind of interesting, Stuart. Sadie Sink, right now up for being cast. If anything, because of her casting, I am going to be under the impression that she is going to be playing a major role in this movie. I feel like the first 2 or 3 people in that we wind up getting casting news for will have some significant role in here. Do you want to go first, or do you want to hear my thoughts on this first? How do you feel about Sadie Sink joining Spider-Man? You want to go first with your thoughts, or me?
Yeah, so first of all, love that she's coming to the Spider-Man franchise, or just to the MCU in general. I don't think she's going to be playing Jean Grey. I would find it very weird if they introduced a major X-Men character in a Spider-Man movie. I don't think that's what Marvel Studios would do, but I could be wrong. But that's I highly doubt it. So I think for me, the two characters I think are the most likely. First one being Mary Jane Watson. Like if they wanted to go the route of still having MJ in the MCU as shoot, I totally forgot what MJ stands for in the MCU.
I think it's like Michelle something.
Michelle Jones, or
I can't remember. I think her first name is Michelle though.
Okay. But yeah, regardless, now with and now it's like if they introduce her as Mary Jane, it's like, okay, now we can have both versions, so like both fans can be happy or something. I think that'd be kind of lame though, if I'm being honest. I like, we already have our MJ, even if she's not Mary Jane Watson, we still have an MJ in the MCU. So I just think it would be unnecessary personally. So I think it's either going to be Catwoman, like you were mentioning earlier. That's a big possibility. I know that there have been so many rumors about
Black Cat,
Black Cat, not Catwoman. You know what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah.
With Black Cat appearing in this movie, there have been rumors about it with her being played by Sweeney Todd, but I hadn't heard anything since those initial rumors began. So I could see half of it being true. Like they wanted Black Cat in the movie and maybe Sweeney Todd was one of the actresses they were looking at. But then like over time they thought, you know what? Sadie will probably be better for this role. And a lot of people look at her hair and they go, well, that doesn't work. And it's like, people dye their hair in Hollywood all the time, guys. Come on. But the other one, and this was the other one that you mentioned as well, Firestorm. And that's if they wanted to go the route of Spider-Man and his amazing friends. Because right now we have a Peter Parker who's pretty much completely on his own. So I could totally see them, wanting to introduce him to a couple of other characters that are also currently on their own. So introducing both Firestar and, oh God, what was the Ice Guy's name again in that show? It was like
Iceman, Bobby Drake.
Was it Iceman? Oh, it was. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
so it would still be a because he was also an X-Men character, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so it would have still been an X-Men character. Interesting. Oh, but yeah, I could see it being either one of those characters that she's playing. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be Jean Grey.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like the options. This is one of the most intriguing casting choices because I feel like we usually have an idea as to who these characters are going to be playing, but the fact that we get one casting announcement and we have like all these options to pick from, it's just like, damn, they're really keeping a tight lid on who she could potentially be playing. So the reveal for this, I think, is going to be through the roof for a lot of people when the time certainly does come. For me, when I think about this role, the first thing that comes to mind for me as I don't think she's going to be Mary Jane. As much of a natural redhead, Darth Gutierrez says, is Sadie Sink a natural redhead? I'm very much under the impression that she is. I don't think I've seen her any other time without it. So I am under the impression that she is a natural redhead in here. So you would think the Mary Jane role would work, but I just think it's just damn disrespectful to Zendaya's character if you bring somebody else in here with the same initials as MJ. Like, Peter, you literally cannot fall for the same girl that has the same initials, my guy. Like, you just can't do it. That's just total disrespect. Okay. So I don't think they're gonna do that. I think Zendaya's MJ was our MJ for this MCU. I don't think we're gonna get a Mary Jane Watson in here. The two people that I think that she could be playing. The first one that I personally think that she's going to be playing, I think she is going to be Firestar in here. I think so. I personally would really love the idea of them playing on the amazing Spider-Man and his amazing friends. If you want to, he is getting into a brand new sort of ooh, chicken on the stick says gender swap Harry Osborn. That would be crazy.
Harry Osborn.
Yo, that would be crazy. But look, he is getting into a new path in his life. He's now a college student. If I'm not mistaken, I believe in the cartoon Amazing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. I do believe Firestar, I think her name is Angelica Jones, if I'm not mistaken. I think her name is Angelica. I think she is a college student. I think they meet each other in college. Same thing with Bobby Drake. So I think it would open up the door for him to make new friends in college. Firestar is also a mutant, as is Bobby Drake. Maybe this is the opportunity to be able to introduce some of these mutants into the MCU if they certainly wanted to. But I think Firestar might be the answer here. The idea of Jean Grey for me feels a little bit off, just because I do believe, we say that, look, does Bobby Drake get introduced in here also? Can we have a Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends live action movie take place in here? That I certainly don't know. So I'm not going to say the idea of introducing us to Jean Grey would be out of place, because I think there is a world that we live in where a Bobby Drake Iceman gets introduced in here in some capacity as well. But I think Jean Grey at least will be introduced in a bigger film, whether that be Avengers Doomsday, whether that be Avengers Secret Wars, or we wait all the way until the solo X-Men film. I am still trying to figure out what type of film this is going to be. I'm not under the impression that this is meant to be a street level film also. So I do expect there to be some level of multiverse antics kind of going on in here also. And because of that, Stuart, I don't think it's out of the question that Sadie Sink could also be cast as Jean Grey. Like, I mean, we talk about variants all the time. We talk about the idea of, copies of these characters being other people in other universes. I could see Sadie Sink's character being Firestar in the MCU, but also her playing a Jean Grey somewhere down the line as an X-Men. I don't think it's too far-fetched, but I think when it comes to the Spider-Man movie, at least, I don't know why. We're talking about college. We're talking about needing new supporting characters. Sadie Sink is a really big name. This is our very first sort of casting announcement, so I expect her to have a really pivotal role in here. And the idea of being a new supporting character for a college Peter Parker where nobody else certainly knows him, coming to find out she's got abilities too in some capacity. There's a part of me that really leans here heavy on Firestar the more that I think about it. I don't think Mary Jane Watson is an option in here. My second choice would be Jean Grey, just because of the idea that if this is meant to be a multiverse movie, anything is possible. And I don't exactly know where this movie lands in regards to its release. I think this comes between Spider-Man, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, but I don't know if this is going to play up like an Ant-Man film did, in the sense of being like this takes place before any crazy antics that happen in Avengers Doomsday or not. or if this will take place in like a battle world scenario. Like I really have no idea what the plot for Spider-Man 4 is. I think Amy Pascal has mentioned the idea that Peter Parker is becoming more and more Spider-Man, kind of leaving behind the Peter Parker persona a little bit, now that most people don't really know who he is, sort of thing. So I don't know where that leads us for Spider-Man 4, if that means this is a grounded level Spider-Man or if it's a mixture of some multiverse stuff. But I think for a supporting character, for where Peter is college-wise, him being introduced to a new college friend, and Angelica Jones, I believe is her name, aka Firestar, would make a lot of sense to me. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Sadie could potentially still play a Jean Grey in an X-Men film down the line. Do you think that's a too much Sadie Sink? Or do you think, like, if she is Firestar in here, there's no way that these rumors for her being Jean Grey could potentially be true?
No, I don't think it'd be too much. I think like having her as a one-off character in this movie, but then also having her later on being Jean Grey for the MCU, I think that's fine. We've already introduced the idea that different characters can be played by or the same character can be played by different actors within the multiverse. They introduced that with the several different versions of the Fantastic Four that we've seen. We've even seen them joking about when they've been played by other MCU's actors in Deadpool with Chris Evans as Johnny. So it's
That's
like,
true. That's true.
So it wouldn't be far-fetched at all if that's the direction they wanted to go in. If they wanted to use her as Firestorm for this movie, but then at some point down the line when they do their first X-Men movie, that's when they decide to have her play Jean Grey. I think, I haven't seen much of her outside of Stranger Things. I can't wait to watch that other movie she's going to be in. So I don't know, how she would do doing two completely different roles in the MCU. But yeah, I think that I just don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities, Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I totally get you there. Let's see here. Darth Gutierrez says, well, they should have had Mary Jane Watson instead of Zendaya's character. I mean, look, I definitely agree with you in that sense. I rather Zendaya have just been Mary Jane Watson, but I am kind of curious as to why they went that route. Marcelino says, I would like Sadie Sink to play Jean Grey, but for Spider-Man 3, I want it to be street level, so maybe Black Cat or Firestar.
I just looked at the comments and saw that I was saying Firestorm by accident. I meant Firestar.
Chicken on the Stick says the gender swap was a joke. I mean, I figured it was a joke, but still, I was like, I just thought that would be pretty crazy if they went that route. I think bringing in a mutant is a smart idea for heading towards X-Men. Could also be Black Cat, but just wear a white wig, easy enough. I do see a couple people saying Black Cat. I would also say, like, the Black Cat thing for me, and this is no disrespect to Sadie Sink, but I just don't. Look, this is going to be the male side of me showing. I need a female that's going to fill out a Black Cat costume. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I just don't view Sadie Sink that way, in the sense of being able to use her like sexual promiscuousness to be as flirtatious as we've seen from some of the other Black Cats in comic book sort of thing, right? So there is a part of me that it's hard for me to picture her in that role. Yeah, you can easily put on a wig sort of thing. But when I think of my Black Cats, I think of like, you know what I'm saying. What I'm saying. So I think Gutierrez says I would prefer Sink for Black Cat than Sydney Sweeney. I'm still holding out for Sydney Sweeney. She may not. I've seen her in some other films where her acting performances are really, really good. I don't think we should sleep on Sydney Sweeney in regards to what she really can do. But again, those have just been rumors. I have no idea if she's ever even been approached for anything like Black Cat, or if Black Cat's even going to be in this film. But when I think of Sadie Sink, I believe she's a natural redhead. Her red hair is just so vibrant. It would be a disservice to like put a wig over that. You know what I'm saying? Granted, it could just simply be her Black Cat persona, to hide who she certainly is. That can definitely work. But I think she's going to be a redhead in some capacity. And so that's why I think Firestar for sure. And then Jean Grey would be my second option.
Yeah, this would be really funny if like they had to approach her like, no, 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 we're the good Marvel. We
We're
make the
the
good Marvel movies.
yeah, for sure. Chicken says Henrietta Osborne. Henrietta Osborne for Sadie Sink.
That's really funny too.
But yeah, I think there's I am fascinated in this casting choice. I've been boasting a lot about Sadie Sink. I've been wanting her in the MCU or DCU for a really long time. So wherever she lands, I'll certainly be happy with it. But I am glad that she's a part of it. But I dig the idea that there's so many options out there for her that people are trying to figure out what they would like to see.
Ooh, one more crazy theory I just came up with.
What's up?
She is Spider-Man's daughter from the future.
Oh, that would be interesting if they went the multiverse route for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe she's even like Gwen Stacy from the Into the Spider-Verse movies. Who knows? I think there's a lot of potential here for who she could be. I do like the idea of like a future daughter for Peter Parker, though. That'd be trippy as hell.
Yeah. At some point, he's like, wait, but who's the mother? And she just like doesn't say anything because it's like, no, we want to keep that open, you know?
We might all be wrong at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely see. But look, guys, I want to know your thoughts. We've given our preferences, but when it comes to Sadie Sink, who would you like her to be? Firestar, Jean Grey, Mary Jane Watson, Gwen Stacy, or Black Cat? AKA Felicia Hardy. Let me know your guys' thoughts in here. I am also just thinking about like Tom Holland talking about the script for Spider-Man 4 coming together, how excited him and Zendaya were when they got the script and they were like reading it and jumping all around the house sort of thing. I don't know. There's just something fun about the concept of like thinking that Spider-Man and his amazing friends could eventually come to like a live action form. There's a part of me that's really rooting for her to be Firestar at this point.
That would be fun. Like, it's so weird. Like, I have very vague memories of that cartoon. I do remember that even at my young age, thinking, "Man, this is cheesy."
But yeah, I'm so glad that we're finally going to get Peter Parker in college. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Who is Sadie Sink going to play? There's a lot of options out there. We want to know your preference. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that out of the way, Stuart, we will move on to our next topic. So from the world of Marvel to the world of DC, baby. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. The pressure continues to build, Stuart, for the Superman movie. We've talked a lot about over here how much Superman needs to make at the box office for Warner Brothers to be successful. And it honestly feels as like that number just continues to rise. And I am starting to get worried as to whether or not WB executives will even be happy with whatever this movie makes, to be honest with you. But Superman is back in the news. And maybe not necessarily back in the news for all the good reasons. Ever since David Zaslav came into power over at Warner Brothers, he's had some hits, a lot of misses. He's brought in, I believe it's Pam DeLuca, or I'm not even going to butcher their names. I'm just going to tell you right now. Let's go ahead and bring up this article here. This actually comes to us from Puck News. The state of Warner Brothers is not in a good place right now, y'all. It is not in a good place right now whatsoever. As Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi's first full slate for Warner Brothers hits theaters, the talk around the town is about the studio's big budgets, risky bets, and how David Zaslav, a notorious belt-tighter, let his deputies spend so much. I don't know if you guys recall, I think they paid like for the Joker film, I think they paid Todd Phillips like $200 million or some shit like that, something crazy to make this film, to make a sequel. I'm sure the budget for Joker 2 was bloated as hell. They feel very much like they've kind of been under the impression that since a lot of directors haven't necessarily been in the good graces with Warner Brothers, that they've been overspending a lot in order to try and bring back some of these creators under their belt. And the fact that they've been paying a lot of money for IP and just for the creators alone, they're starting to not see their the return on investment for them. And in turn, it's really been ruining things. It says, let's talk about Warner's. That's how a top agent answered the phone when I called Thursday. No hello, just straight to the topic that we both knew has been consuming the town for weeks and built to a crescendo during the past few days. Mickey 17, a pricey sci-fi comedy from Parasite director, was hitting theaters, the first in a series of risky and expensive or bold and original movies that film studios Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy had put into the pipeline. Industry insiders wonder, did Zaslav not know that the talent deals were unusually generous, or that the budgets of these films were kind of big? After all, he came from television, and the movie business is his own dangerous animal, never more so than now when audiences are more finicky than ever. Certainly, Zaslav's undisguised wide-eyed glee at finding himself smack in the middle of the Hollywood big time suggested that, notwithstanding his reputation for squeezing a dollar hard, he might be fleeceable.
I'm gonna correct the article on one thing, and I'm sure that I'm gonna piss off so many people for saying this. He did not come from a background of television. He came from a background of reality television, which is a very different world. I'm just gonna say that, and if anyone disagrees, let me know.
It says during their tenure, talking about Mike and Pam, DeLuca and Abdy made costly movies like House of Gucci and Serrano. Both failed to make any money. It says Zaslav might have tried to prevent a lot of overspending by putting a limit on DeLuca and Abby's greenlight authority. Rumors have varied about the dollar amount, but it had to be lower than 100 million, meaning that Zaslav must have blessed, or at least somewhat blessed, the expensive films that have the town buzzing. So while the rumors rage, in recent Bloomberg article very ominously stated outright that Zaslav was losing patience with his studio heads, it's also possible he should have a stern talk with himself. It says, but the gods were cruel. When Joker Fale Adu went down in flames, they took some of the blame. Filmmaker Todd Phillips had not test screened the movie, fearing leaks. He did the same with the first movie, but that was a $55 million proposition. The sequel was just a bit more expensive. You don't allow the refusal to test screen, a top executive at another studio almost shouted at me at the time. There's no $200 million movie in the business that you don't test screen. It's utter malpractice. He also says the test screening issue popped up again with Mickey 17. The film was greenlit by the previous studio chief with a $118 million budget, but DeLuca and Abdy were on the job when it went into production and passed that number. The film tested badly, sources say, but director Bong dismissed the results, saying his Oscar winner Parasite didn't test well either. But that film had cost just $10 million. Meanwhile, the knowledgeable source told me that Warner's had come up with an alternate cut of Mickey 17 that tested 10 points higher, but the director had final cut and got his way. Based on the film's $19 million domestic opening and a B cinema score, a source estimates that the movie will fall $100 million short of break even at the box office. So yeah, man. And then they're overpaying talent, the article goes on to say. And so some people probably are wondering right now, Stuart, like, what does this got to do with Superman? Well, let me tell you how this has to do with Superman here. So yeah, they're continuing to spend, not making their money back. And there are legit people that are kind of worried as to what the future of Warner Brothers is going to be. It says, with all this as a backdrop, rumors fell last week that DeLuca and Abdy were out. Asked for comment, Zaslav's spokesman responded, there is no truth to that rumor. And that was it. Needless to say, the statement likely did not do little to stop the rumor mill from grinding on. Zaslav has been said to be leaning towards replacing them with Peter Safran, the co-chair and CEO of DC Studios. But simultaneously, these are rumors that Zaslav will initiate a search for new leadership. And then here's the Superman part. So he's already looking to take out Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy. And again, this is just rumors. But now that we've just established DC Studios with Peter Safran and James Gunn, he's potentially looking at Peter Safran to move over to head the company and take him away from DC Studios, leaving just sort of James Gunn. I would assume, first off, they would probably replace somebody with Peter Safran over at DC Studios if this were to happen, because I believe James Gunn's only reason for accepting the job was if it was a co-CEO situation. I don't know if James Gunn wants to be the money side of things also and the creative side of things as well. So that'll be interesting if it does come true. But this is where it gets interesting for Superman fans. Meanwhile, Gunn and Safran are busy with a little project of their own, Superman. The July release date has now taken on almost incalculable importance to Warner Brothers. If Warner's can't finally make a DC franchise work, there is genuine fear that the studio will go the way of Fox, which will be swallowed by Disney. That was swallowed by Disney in 2019. So now there is almost incalculable importance for Superman to be successful. It says Warner's was once considered the Tiffany of movie studios. Sure, the corporate jets and the nice retreat are long gone, but Warner Brothers is still fundamental to the industry's image of itself. It says, presiding over the destruction of the place is hardly Hollywood's ending that Zaslav envisioned. An essential element of the stock price is believing that the IP of DC is meaningful. David bet big that he could show the world that the DC IP can have real value. Superman is the first movie that will set the tone. They have a tremendous amount riding on it. That's a staggering amount of pressure for Safran and especially Gunn, who is directing. But if the movie doesn't work, at least no one can say it's Mike and Pam's fault unless folks want to blame the marketing. So, James Gunn, your number's been called. Time to step up, buddy. This is I find this as truly unfair for James Gunn.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Because now you're letting like other people's faults of not running the Warner Brothers the correct way kind of now land on your lap to deliver a humongous movie. You know, when I thought of like what would measure the success of a James Gunn Superman, my mindset went to just be better than the Man of Steel. Okay, like if you can just be better than the Man of Steel, which made about $670 million at the box office, if you can make that and more, you're good. You're good. I was thinking in the range of like 700 to probably $750 million. And if you look at James Gunn's track record when it comes to some of his Marvel movies and whatnot, with the exception of Suicide Squad, I think that came out in a really weird pandemic era time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's made any less than $700 million in his movie. I mean, James Gunn has a really great track record, especially when it comes to comic book movies. So I do think it's more than doable for James Gunn to produce anywhere between a $700 and $750 million film. That was my level of success for Superman. And I used to always think to myself, like, I wonder what Warner Brothers thinks. Like, I used to think to myself, do they expect this movie to be $1 billion? Because I don't think this movie needs to be $1 billion to prove, especially at a film that's sort of kicking off the DCU. I don't think it needs $1 billion to be successful whatsoever. But Stuart, today, my mind is completely changed. My mind is completely changed. I feel like now Warner Brothers expects this movie to do like Barbie level numbers. And Barbie was like 1.5 billion dollars. And I just do not see Superman making that type of money. Look, maybe Superman is great. I have no idea. Maybe Superman is great. And it can capture sort of like the audiences all over the world, really tap into something that people have been missing, something very, just current and needed in comic book movies these days. But I don't know if it'll have that cultural presence that something like a Barbie did. But I just think it's truly unfair to go from something that I think should have made 700 to 750 million dollars at the box office, make a decent profit to be considered successful, to where now James Gunn feels probably like, look, all these other movies that they've put money towards have failed, have not given them back a return. Will just getting a return back satisfy them? Or will this movie need to now make over $1 billion in order for David Zaslav to justify allow this DCU universe to continue? And I'm legit worried about that. Just because it's like, one, I don't trust CEOs, I don't trust heads of companies to have fair judgments on these things. And I just feel like with all the pressure on Warner Brothers and the idea of it folding, it does feel like an unfair amount of pressure to be put on James Gunn to be like, you need to be the one to save our company. And I just don't know if $750 million at the box office, even if that does make this movie profit, a lot of profit, there's a part of me that still thinks, I don't know if that's going to be enough. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that they at least allow, if this movie is successful, let's go 2 or 3 steps ahead. Let's see what this Supergirl movie can certainly do for us. Let's see how this Lantern show certainly goes. If there's positive buzz critically and audience-wise, even if this movie doesn't make $1 billion, if there's positive momentum, I hope that Warner Brothers is not reactionary and short-sighted enough to think to themselves, well, if this movie only made $750 million, we can't make any more money than that. I do not need these people to be short-sighted and reactionary at this point, because that's the reason why we got in this place we got in the situation in the first place, Stuart. So I don't know, man. How are you feeling about all this?
On the one hand, the main thing is that, yes, I feel like this is a very much like unfair amount of pressure to suddenly like throw on Superman, because while yes, Superman is the biggest character in DC comic books, I don't think necessarily it's going to be $1 billion movie. I think your estimate 700 million, definitely. I think at the very least 700 million, hopefully 800 million. I don't think it's going to be $1 billion, and it would be a shame if Warner Brothers looked at those numbers and said, well, this didn't hit $1 billion, so sorry, this isn't what we were going for. And it's like it's a pattern. It's repeating itself. It's the Offspring song. Nothing changes. It's all the same. The world you get's the one you give away. It all just happens way down the line, because this is exactly what happened with the original DCU plans. When it was the Snyderverse, or they didn't even really have an official name for it. But after Dawn of Justice came out, you guys know I hate that movie, but I'm not going to deny it had an incredible opening weekend success. And the numbers dropped really far, yes, but it still made over $600 million. It still made them a profit. They wanted it to hit the $1 billion range, and because it didn't hit that, they considered it a failure. Just like Amazing Spider-Man 2. Again, it didn't hit $1 billion, but it made a lot of money. But Sony looked at the numbers and said, but we wanted Avengers money. And, Spider-Man 2 didn't give us Avengers money. So, you know what? Yeah, we're just going to start from scratch again. I mean,
Can I throw in a number real quick for you?
Yes, go for it.
Box Office Mojo has Batman versus Superman worldwide, $874 million. And they decided, let's go a different route.
Yeah. And so again, this is coming from someone who did not like the movie. And I think that was dumb of them to just completely erase everything when you made that much money from the movie. And it's just, it's weird when you have that kind of a mindset. The other thing too, okay, now this is the part that I will say, okay, right. So what I was going with that with James Gunn. So on the one hand, I do think that's unfair, but on the other hand, I will also say that's just the movie industry. It sucks because I know that James Gunn just wants to make a fun Superman movie. He just wants to tell stories. It's just that, yes, unfortunately in the movie industry, that's not enough. And sometimes, you do have to deal with that kind of pressure, especially if you're in a position like his. The part that I will say is unfair though, if this is true, is the idea of taking Peter Safran away from the DC side of things and then just moving him to a completely different department, mostly because that was the main reason James Gunn signed on board. He said many, many times he had zero interest in being like the only producer. So it's like people have asked him, hey, would you take Kevin Feige's job if he retired and he offered it to you? And he's like, no, I would hate that. I like telling stories. I don't like producing. And the only reason he took up this job working as the CEO of DC was because he would have Peter Safran taking care of all of the all the producing stuff, all of the technical stuff, all the paperwork, and all James Gunn would have to do would be focusing on telling stories, making sure there's a cohesive DC universe, and it seemed like the perfect kind of partnership, honestly. So if David Zaslav's taking that away just because Superman doesn't make $1 billion, I think that is also very unfair. It's like he's the one making all these really bad company decisions that's been driving Warner Brothers into the ground ever since he's taken over. And plus, not to mention, I mean, dear God, if this man just gave a fraction of his salary back to Warner Brothers, they'd be fine. I'm going to say that too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean this in a literal way too. He is the most overpaid CEO, and I say that because of how much money he has lost Warner Brothers compared to how much money he has made. He literally is the most overpaid CEO on the planet when you look at that big difference. So, it sucks. It's like you're punishing someone else because you mess up your own job. And yeah, just everything about David Zaslav pisses me off, honestly. And yeah, this article just kind of, reinforces my hatred for this man. That's my 2 cents on the whole thing.
I am glad that you brought up his salary. Thank you for that, because yeah, he is really overpaid. But I think what interests him in Peter Safran, if those rumors are true, I don't know what the budget is for Superman yet. I am kind of curious as to what it is. There's a part of me that wants to say it's maybe like 150 million, maybe 200 million. I have no idea. But what I would say is that I think when you look at something like what Peter Safran just did and James Gunn with the idea of making Clayface, like the Clayface movie, I think they have it at like a $40 million budget or something crazy like that, right? Like, to me, that's smart filmmaking in the sense of being realistic about how much you think your movie is going to be able to make once you start adding production costs and marketing, and being able to come with a fair-minded sort of dollar amount so that when you put your movie out there, it has the potential to be successful on a financial aspect. Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi just seem like they've just been forking over money for big amounts. We know that original movies just do not make as much money as they used to in the box office. And so be able to dish over $100 million budgets, $120, $130 million budgets to these original smaller films. I mean, look, Mickey 17, visually, you can see where the money certainly went to. But the fact that, as the article states, the previous movie he did was only $10 million. Like, could we not have made Mickey 17 for a smaller budget than what we did in hopes to kind of get the return back that we certainly need for it? So it just feels like David Zaslav and the people that he's kind of put in charge. I mean, he can blame Pam DeLuca and Mike Abdi all he wants, or Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi all he wants to, but at the end of the day, David Zaslav is the head. He's the one that put these people kind of in charge, so he should be the one to definitely bite the bullet in here. And so I would agree with you. I think while they have to prove that DC as an IP is a winner, I think they also have to be very mindful of the idea that you are literally coming off of the destruction of the DCEU. The bad taste that this IP is kind of left in people's mouths, and you have to try and have some sort of grace for these DCU films to kind of get off the ground. So even if this is the very first film out of the DCU when it comes to Superman, I think as a head of a department, you still have to take in mind, like, okay, this may not be $1 billion film. Like, why would you expect this movie to be $1 billion film when the last DCEU movie we had just failed miserably? And yes, while you do have new people in charge, there has to be some level of managing your own expectations for things. And I think you make a good point in connecting the dots to the previous DCEU, regardless of how some people might have felt about Man of Steel or even Batman versus Superman. It is a positive trajectory that the DCEU was certainly going. Man of Steel, $670 million. Batman versus Superman, $870+ million, right? Like, people are coming out to your movie. And so to kind of just be very reactionary to how people immediately felt or the pushback that those movies made, instead of completely blowing it up, you have opportunities to kind of take make creative changes, but not to the level in which they wind up doing, and unfortunately brought forth their own demise. So I hope that they certainly learn from their past mistakes and give James Gunn the grace and the understanding that he needs. Just make the movie as best as you can, and we'll sit with the results, and we'll give you a fair shot to get 2 or 3 of these films out. If you can stay within a good budget, if you can make some level of profit from this, just reaffirm to us that we made a great decision in regards to having Peter Safran and James Gunn run this world. But it feels like the expectations are now changing because of everything riding on this film to finally be a successful hit for Warner Brothers after they've taken a lot of L's. But I hope that they are managing. I hope that they're managing their expectations a little bit. Chicken on the stick. Not surprising about Joker 2, especially when Todd and Joaquin both said they didn't want to make him a second movie after the first. Money talks. Yeah, it absolutely talks. And Todd Phillips had all the leverage in that situation. Todd Phillips was like, look, I know we made $1 billion for you guys, but you're going to have to fork over a ton of money to certainly bring me back. And they did. And the fact that they didn't even screen test it at all, it's just like red flags everywhere, man.
Mm-hmm. Which I didn't even hear about the lack of a screen test. And I think like the reason behind it, because they didn't want anything getting leaked, is I think his real reason was that he knew people wouldn't like it, and he didn't want negative word like kind of spreading like before the movie had a chance to get released. I think that's like the main reason.
Darth Gutierrez says, I think the budget for Superman is north of 200 million easily. I mean, maybe you're right. If I'm James Gunn, I would be nervous. Like, bro, I don't need $200 million. Please don't give me $200 million. Like, maybe 200 might be like the max, but going over, God, I hope James Gunn is like, yeah, I don't honestly know if I need that. How much was? Let me see what the budget for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Let me see if it tells me. Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy was $250 million. I don't know if I don't know, man. There's a part of me that's like, I think we can make a Superman movie under 250. I'm hoping 200 million, because when I think of a movie for $200 million, I'm gonna double that for what I need to make back, and then I'm gonna add $100 million worth of marketing. So I'm looking at Superman having to make at least $500 million at the box office to break even. And the way that they've been marketing it so far, with the Super Bowl stuff with Guy Gardner, I think their marketing is going to be on point here. So I'm expecting at least $100 million for marketing. $500 million at the box office. I mean, maybe if you push it to 250, then we're talking about, like, if I double that again, then add an extra 100 million, I'm talking about $600 million. So maybe, I mean, if we're talking about where we think this movie can maybe earn between 750 million, and it may even surprise us and come in about $800 million. I would still want to stick to the low end of that, Stuart, at that 200, at less than 200 if I can, because I think you can make a really great movie for like 150 million easy.
Mm-hmm. Like you could, but it's also Superman, and given the plethora of heroes in this movie, I can kind of see, like, it's so funny because usually I'm the kind of guy that goes, no, we can give movies less money. But given the characters that we have in this, and given the movies that it's trying to compete with, I do kind of see the mindset of giving a movie like Superman a $200 million budget. That said, though, what I think they need to start working on doing, instead of releasing like every film as a $250 movie, because this has like been the problem with Marvel. They need to, and this is what they seem to be working on with movies like Swamp Thing and Clayface, is I think it's just smart to mix in like lower budget films that, the pressure just isn't that as high to succeed. And therefore, like, you can just have I don't know, just like less pressure on these films. Worst case scenario, if they somehow don't make money on their $40 million budget, it's not going to impact the company that badly. But if they do, that's just a big, easy, free money basically for you if you can go that direction. So I think there's just a balance that they need between the two that they certainly can do if they're willing.
Yeah, no, I agree, because if Superman makes a profit, I'm sure they're going to use some of that money to help put together some of the smaller budget films. And if you can make a smaller budget film on a reasonable budget, and that movie makes profit, that's just you're in the positive. You continue to be in the positive. You can utilize that money to go ahead and do other things for sure. He says, I don't know Superman's budget. Regardless, it should make over $250 million. And maybe that's almost like baked into the Superman character. Like maybe you just know you're automatically going to make $500 million when it comes to Superman, regardless, because of just his name alone. So you guys might be right. It may come in at $200 million or even north. Because you're right. I mean, I guess when it comes to Superman, maybe that's money well worth investing. If you have an idea like, yeah, we're going to make over $500 million regardless. So, but my perspective would just be allow your profit to be bigger than what it is. If you can make a Superman movie for $200 million at the max, try and do it if you can, but who knows?
Then, this is a really good point. So we had Nora, with a $6 million budget, and it ended up, I remember that movie was selling out at the Draft House. So I imagine it did really well. But yeah, obviously, superheroes do need, special effects, which does cost a lot of money. It's why I think that there's room for two. I think that the problem is that they're focusing only on the latter with the big budget movies. I think you just need to find a better balance of the two.
Yeah, I agree. I will be really fascinated to see what the budget for Superman is certainly gonna look like, because I there's a part of me that thinks that you can make a great Superman movie under $200 million. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out. I don't know if they expect Superman to be an Oscar winner though. But you never know. You never know what James Gunn is gonna knock out. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. The pressure is on for Superman to save not only the DCU but also Warner Brothers at this point. How much money do you certainly think this movie needs to make? I just want to have a little bit of fun here, real quick, Stuart. I did put a poll up this week. I only got like 13 votes on it, but I said, with all the pressure now on Superman, this is over on Twitter, with all the pressure now on Superman, what does it need to make of the box office for Warner Brothers to deem it successful? About 54% said $750 million to $1 billion, 23% $600 to $750 million, and then another 23% for $1 billion plus. So there are some people out there that think this movie needs to make $1 billion plus, but about half of our voters on it said 750 to $1 billion. I think that's a fair enough range, though.
I think if it was before we read this article, I would have said, "Oh, as long as it makes over 700 million, they're fine." But now I'm like, now I don't know. Now I think now I think that from their point of view, it has to break the billion.
God, I hope not. I hope not, bro. But we'll see. We'll see. You guys let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. And from that story to our next. Oh, actually, no. Before we move on, we did have some images, some new images that came out for Superman. So behind the scenes stuff here, Mr. Terrific, along with Lois Lane. I am interested in the route that they're going here with Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, dressed the way that she is. She feels like a legit reporter that's like trying to get by. Like she knows that she's gonna be put in like the toughest situation, so she's not trying to like dress all glamorous or like a business reporter that's in the office all the time. I mean, she looks like she's ready to get in on the action sort of thing. And some of the costume design choices for some of these characters I find really fascinating. But we have Eddie Gatheji as Mr. Terrific in here. Getting some makeup and getting ready for his scene. And then we also have the engineer. I can never remember the lady's name in here, unfortunately, that's playing the engineer. But this looks like one of the big action sequences that we've seen from the trailer inside of the baseball stadium.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I was going to say this is where we see Superman fighting Ultraman. So, I wonder. I guess she probably has some part to do with that fight as well.
Yeah, maybe it's a 2v1 situation when we get here. But yeah, those are some new exclusive images that have in fact dropped this week.
Also, I'm curious, how much do you think it costs to rent out a stadium like that for a fight scene, or like just for filming a movie? Because stadiums are not cheap.
Yeah, absolutely. Chicken on the Sticks says, I think it's reasonable to think Superman could possibly break 1 billion. James Gunn carries a lot of fate with fans. The Snyder cult hurts it the most, I think, if they keep crying about Snyder. Yeah, I do think that you're right. I mean, do I think it can make $1 billion? Yes, but I do think it's a tall task, I think. But I think if James Gunn has proven anything, I think he has a really great balance to movies that he can make. Yes, I know people look towards him as comedy, but I don't know if I've ever been cared about raccoons so much in my life after watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right? Like, I do think he's got some really great emotional beats. Even the holiday special for Guardians of the Galaxy makes me choke up every time every time I watch it. So I do think there is something there for James Gunn. So hopefully the fans will come out and support him.
Also, yes, he is. But I think this version of him, we still don't know what they're doing with him, but everyone's been speculating because in the trailers he seems to be going toe to toe with Superman. Plus, he has the U. I think people are speculating that he's a clone of Superman in this version, and not like an alternate Kryptonian from another universe, part of the crime syndicate. But that we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that he's a Bizarro under there. I'm hoping that they fool everybody and he's Bizarro.
That would be awesome. He has like a zombie David Cornsweat looking face underneath.
Yeah, I would dig. I mean, look, James Gunn gave us freaking Starro the Conqueror. I mean, whoever thought that, right? Like, let's go Bizarro. I'm hoping he's Bizarro instead of Ultraman under there. But that's just my own speculation. All right, guys. Yeah, if you have any other comments, feel free to throw them in the live chat or the comments after this. But let's move on to our next topic, man, because coming fresh off of her time on Barbie, Greta Gerwig is trying to get back into the directing seat, tackling a not too easy adaptation to certainly make, as Greta Gerwig is set to go ahead and give us her rendition of Chronicles of Narnia. This is in fact going to be on Netflix. They've given her a massive deal to go ahead and make this movie. I am curious because look, Chronicles of Narnia is not just one book. It literally is a chronicle of like 8 or 9 books or 8 or 9 stories, if I'm not mistaken. But the story that most people certainly know of is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which we wind up getting a few years back. I think we got 2 or 3 Chronicles of Narnia films. I think they went on to eventually do Prince Caspian, I think, as the second one, and there might have been a third one, if I'm not mistaken, Stuart. If you can look that up, I don't know if they ever did the third one or not. But so Chronicles of Narnia, certainly not something to sleep on, and definitely a huge adaptation from C.S. Lewis for Greta Gerwig to go ahead and tackle. I don't think that they've clarified which book, if any, that they're going to be adapting as of yet. But Chronicles of Narnia is in the news because we are starting to hear some of the first casting choices as to who could in fact be joining this project. So let's go ahead and bring this up here. This comes to us from deadline.com. Netflix circling Daniel Craig for Chronicles of Narnia. Now look, Daniel Craig has been in the news for a movie that hasn't even been greenlit yet or announced in Sergeant Rock. We had been told that he had been offered a role and turned it down, only for James Gunn to eventually come out and say, yeah, no, we actually never really even talked to Daniel Craig about the Sergeant Rock movie. Well, Daniel Craig is back in the news. Apparently, he has in fact been offered a role for Chronicles of Narnia. It says, while it's super early in the deal-making process, sources tell Deadline that Netflix and director Greta Gerwig are aiming high for their next piece of casting on the Chronicles of Narnia movie, as Daniel Craig has an offer to join the cast. Sources tell that it is unknown whether Craig will ultimately come on board, but they do add that he does hold the offer. It is also unknown who he would be playing in the film. Even with it being earlier, the studio and Gerwig are clearly gearing up in a big way with production to start later this year. Deadline was first to report that Charlie XCX was in talks for the role of the White Witch. In 2018, Netflix said it would develop new series and film projects based on C.S. Lewis's beloved The Chronicles of Narnia series, and brought Gerwig on board in 2020 to adapt and direct the first movie. So right now, she is set to go ahead and do the first film, but it does look like they have also bigger plans to do not only other films, but series also. It remains in early stages and details are scant. It says the movie is getting an exclusive 2-week IMAX global run for Thanksgiving of 2026 in advance of the picks drop on the streamer. If it makes this, the deal would be a reunion of sorts for Craig and Netflix, as he's just coming off of the Knives Out franchise, and the third film is due out later on this year. So Daniel Craig apparently offered the role. He holds the offer right now. No word as to whether or not he's going to accept. So right now, Stuart, we've got the White Witch cast, and now whatever role Daniel Craig could potentially be playing in here as well. I'm really eager to kind of see what Netflix does with this. While I personally have not read any of the C.S. Lewis books from the Chronicles of Narnia, I was a really big fan of the movies that they wind up cranking out a few years ago. And it did make me interested in wanting to go back and check out some of these books and read them for myself. So I am interested in the direction they're going to go. But when you hear this idea of Daniel Craig, do you have any idea who you think he might be playing in here? Is it obvious to you? Is it not? How do you feel about this project as a whole?
Well, for the Daniel Craig part, I would assume probably Aslan, the lion, or the caretaker, the one that looks after the kids. I would assume one of those two would be the role that they would have him for. Although I think Aslan, because I feel like he has a strong enough voice to where I could see him having that kind of like royal, like lion kind of voice, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess here's the part I gotta be honest about. My excitement level not the highest, and that's only because super hot take, I've just never been a fan of the Narnia movies. I read or not the first book. I read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I read that back in middle school, and I just, I didn't love it, didn't hate it or anything. But then when the movies came out, I also just I don't know. I thought they were fine. They weren't bad movies, but they just kind of bored me, if I'm being honest. And I haven't seen them in so long. So maybe if I watch them again as an adult, I'd go in with a completely different mindset. But it's like one of the rare times I've watched a fantasy movie and was kind of bored watching it. So because of that, I don't have that much nostalgia for the franchise, so my hype level not super high for this. I do think that Daniel Craig as getting him for the movie is a big score for sure, and also Greta Gerwig, amazing director, so I think that she's a great choice as well. I definitely look forward to seeing her kind of take in the in the fantasy genre, because I don't think she's done a full-on fantasy, unless you count Barbie as a full-on fantasy, but depends on how you categorize your films. But yeah, I'll probably give it a watch. I'm just not hyped for it, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. I can understand that, especially if you don't really have a connection with the books or the movie itself. The first set of movies didn't really do anything for you. I think the first Chronicles of Narnia also came out during that Lord of the Rings time period, when it was also, hey, if we've got really big cinematic fantasy novels out there that we can take advantage of and bring to the big screen, maybe we can do it. It did feel like a Lord of the Rings light in a sense. We got, talking animals and stuff, big climactic battles. There was an aspect of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe I really was a big fan of, certainly watching. But then again, I was sort of in that Lord of the Rings phase at the time. Look, I think this would be a big win for them if they're able to get Daniel Craig. I believe this offer more than I do the Sergeant Rock one now, just because of the connection that he's had with Netflix, with the Knives Out movie. So it certainly would make sense that, if Netflix has treated Daniel Craig pretty good, especially financially, if they have another offer for you, especially to work with Greta Gerwig coming off of a $1 billion movie and Barbie, why not get the opportunity to kind of work with her a little bit, especially in the role of Aslan, because that's who I would assume that he certainly is. He's going to have some big shoes to fill with coming off of Liam Neeson's voice as Aslan, which was like majestic in its own right. But I do think Daniel Craig can certainly bring his own flavor and voice certainly to that of Aslan. That's what I got to assume that he's going to be. If you've already filled the role of the White Witch, the next biggest role out of that is Aslan for sure. And so, I don't know how much they're going to have Daniel Craig do. I mean, granted, look, I also think it's a case of, Aslan, I think, does pop up in other books as well, not just Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, but Prince Caspian, and I think maybe a couple others as well. So this might be a situation for Daniel Craig where it's like, look, if you sign on, we're really going to need your voice to pop in other movies, other television shows. It would be a really great way for him to secure some work. And it is just a voice acting role. It's not like we're going to put CGI dots on you and you got to pretend to be a lion out there sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? So I do think, I don't want to say this is easy money, but based off of the nostalgia for Chronicles of Narnia, the history of C.S. Lewis books, I think there's a part of Daniel Craig that would be really open to tackling this role. And so I really do hope that he lands it. Chicken on a Stick does say, I'm curious if Greta has any sort of history with the book series, or if maybe Netflix approached her and offer a bunch of money. I want to say that I've read an article of Greta Gerwig talking about her past with Chronicles of Narnia and, her growing up on these books as well. So I do think that there is, because for me, when I think of Greta Gerwig, the idea of her coming fresh off of Barbie, regardless of the money or not, like, you literally could do any movie that you want to, right? Like, people are going to throw money out there. If you want to do your own original stuff, you certainly could. But to go from Barbie to Chronicles of Narnia feel like two completely different worlds. And I don't know if you just pick up the job just because of money, or if it's because it truly is sort of a project that you either really enjoyed as a kid, it connected with you on some particular level and influenced you in regards to your imagination and your own creativity. I got to assume that there's a bigger picture here for Greta Gerwig. And I'm sure there's probably interviews out there where people are asking her that very question. So we might be able to look some up and hear what Greta's answers and responses are, but I gotta assume that there's some level of connection in here. So I'm eager to see what they do. I think for me, the biggest interest is Netflix wanting to do more than just one movie, because there are, especially, and I think Blossom says this, there are 7 books of Narnia. Some movies probably could do with big budgets. And some books may be on a smaller level that you can get away with doing sort of a series around. So the idea of there being some sort of cinematic universe here for Chronicles of Narnia, I think really works if you can find a great balance between big budget films for some of these books and smaller productions for television series. And whether or not, if anything, I'm still curious as to what movie she's going to do. They haven't even announced it yet. It may not be Lion, Witch, and a Wardrobe. It may be, I would be curious if they're going like an actual order of the books, if they're going like a chronological sort of telling of the books, or the release order of the books. I think there's certainly a lot of questions here in regards to what are they truly doing with this Chronicle of Narnia movie. But it's enough to interest me. I do like Greta Gerwig as a director, and this is a world that I honestly would not mind diving back into. So yeah, we'll see how it turns out.
Definitely.
Marcelino says Amy Pascal said that the new Narnia will be about rock and roll. This has confused and concerned people as it was said with a straight face and was dead serious. What do you take from it? What is her attachment
Wait,
to Amy Pascal? Is from Sony. Are they working with Sony on this project for Narnia with Netflix? I don't know. I haven't
I'm
heard that.
gonna Google this now because that actually doesn't make sense. not, not,
Uh,
not, not that I'm calling you a liar. That actually seems like something she might actually say. But man, what the
let's see.
hell?
Blossom. First book from Narnia I read was The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. That might be the first book. Is that the first book out of the? I have to look it up too. Chicken on the Stick says Craig is 100% going to pull a Cumberbatch and put a mocap suit on, crawl like a lion. But hey, you know what? Maybe they get to fully get into the role of Aslan. You've got to believe that you are the Jesus lion. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Because yeah, I'm looking it up right now. It doesn't say anything about Sony being involved, but it could be like one of those things where they also just like keep their credit like very like minimal, or for some reason I don't know.
Chronicles of Narnia book order. While you look that up, I'm gonna see The Magician's Nephew. Is that the first book? Yeah, The Magician's. Let me see. In what order should the Narnia books be read? So this one suggests the line the books were originally published in this order: Lion, a Witch in a Wardrobe, Prince Caspian, and then The Voyage of Dawn Treader, The Silver Chair, The Horse and His Boy, The Magician's Nephew, and The Last Battle. So I'm curious if they're going to go the order of which it was published, but the chronological order though has The Magician's Nephew, The Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe, The Horse and His Boy, Prince Caspian, The Voyage of Dawn Treader, Silver Chair, and The Last Battle. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I am curious what direction they go. I mean, I feel like if you're gonna get Greta Gerwig, you might want to do The Lion, Witch in the Wardrobe. But if they have an overall story, or they have another order in which they want to release these things, if they have plans on doing other television series as well, where do you fit in some of these series in between the bigger movies that you have? So it'll be interesting to see the direction that they go with this.
Yeah, like I actually just thought of this. Like they could do like some books or they turn into TV shows, whereas other books they turn into movies based on like what works better for the story.
He says, I did some research as well, and Greta Gerwig says it's about rock and roll. Let me see. Greta
Oh wait, Greta
Gerwig.
Gerwig said that. Oh,
Um,
that's still weird if she said that. What the heck?
rock and roll. Let's see. Greta Gerwig, Narnia, rock and roll. Um, Here we go. This is from December Screen Rant. Let's see. It's all about rock and roll. This is confounding tease from producer. Amy Pascal has a surprising description of Greta Gerwig's first Chronicle of Narnia movie following the critical and commercial success of Barbie. Yada, yada, yada. Jason Isaacs, whose involvement in the project is not yet confirmed, indicated that Greta Gerwig's first Narnia movie will adapt The Magician's Nephew instead of Lion, a Witch in a Wardrobe.
Oh, okay.
While speaking with Deadline, Pascal teased that Gerwig's upcoming movie will be a very new take on Narnia. It's all about rock and roll. She's emphasized that she has never seen anything like Gerwig and reminisced on when she barged into the office. Let me see this Deadline article, if I can find this as well. So it just says it's a kind of a new take, huh? The article itself doesn't really bring up the quote. Maybe it's like audio form or something like that. So it's not in the actual article they provide. Pascal comments about having a very new take on Narnia is unsurprising, but the rock and roll description is more perplexing, as beloved kid fantasy story about the young people traveling to a magical world. Also serves as a Christian allegory. Rock and roll is the last description that would normally be described, far beyond the traditional reboot. That's interesting. I'm trying to see if there's any
Wait,
other.
I totally forgot. Narnia was like more like on the Christian side of things. It was like almost the exact opposite of the Golden Compass books.
Yeah, it was more, it was more like Christian oriented.
That's funny.
So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's what it says according to Amy Pascal and some of the other it's all about rock and roll. I'll be interested. Is this going to be like a rock opera, as you mentioned?
Yeah. In that case, it's like that's kind of I'm intrigued, but I also like feel like if I was a fan of the books, I would be very disappointed. Yeah, it would feel very off-putting for me if I was a fan of the books, I think. But I don't know. If anyone in the comments is a fan of the books, let us know your thoughts on this.
Marcelo says Greta Gerwig said in an interview video, so you have to watch the video to know the full context. Okay, yeah, I'll try and find the Greta Gerwig interview if I can at another time. But yeah, interesting. That definitely opens my eyes a little bit more. So I will definitely look up for that interview. All right, guys. With this story out of the way, let's move on to our next one, Stuart. As believe it or not, where's my next title? Oh. Believe it or not, Starship Troopers, baby, is back in the news. If you've been a big fan of the original film, you might be getting more of it. Apparently, they've been trying to do a Starship Troopers remake for quite some time. But this week, we actually wind up getting news that they have officially landed a director, and one that I've actually been I don't want to say rather impressed with, but I feel like his career started off really impressively in the sense of director Neil Blomkamp, who gave us the incredible film District 9 from years ago. He then went on to make other films like it was a Chappie, I think, and then there was another film that he did. I can't remember off the top of my head that just did not live up to expectations.
Elysium, that was the other one.
Yes, Elysium. But apparently he's back, as he will in fact be directing the remake for Starship Troopers. Let's go ahead and bring up this article here, Stuart. This one comes to us from The Hollywood Reporter. Let's see. Here we go. It says Johnny Rico is coming back to kill some more bugs. Columbian Pictures is plotting a new Starship Troopers movie, setting District 9 filmmaker Neil Blomkamp to write and direct to an adaptation of the classic sci-fi novel story by Robert A. Henling. So he's going to be writing and directing. Blomkamp will also produce the feature alongside Terry Tatchell, his partner and wife, who co-wrote the South American filmmakers District 9 and the 2005 outing Chappie. Published in 1959, Troopers ostensibly told an interstellar war between Earth and a host of bug-like aliens and focused on the rise of a military serviceman named Johnny Rico. But the story had other things on its mind, like exploring the strengths of life in a military society and such ideas as having to perform service in order to have voting rights. While the book won a Hugo Award for Best Novel and has been quite influential in sci-fi literature, some quartets describe the book as fascist. It was that tone that it was satirized in the 1977 movie from Paul Verhoeven, who the director of RoboCop, Total Recall, Basic Instincts, and Showgirls. His over the top in his depiction of the military jingoism and propaganda, fetishized costumes, and highlighted Nazi influences. It does go on to say Rico was played by square-jawed roughneck Casper Van Dien, and the cast including Dina Meyer, Denise Richards, Neil Patrick Harris, and Michael Ironside. While the movie was not an initial success, and some critics accused Verhoeven of putting a positive spin on fascism, the movie has since developed a reappraisal and a cult following. Blomkamp's take is not a remake of that movie, and sources say the goal is to go back to the source material. Blomkamp recently directed Gran Turismo, a critical and commercial success. Oh, so he did do Gran Turismo. Okay. I had heard good things about that film, actually. The filmmaker showed his ability to tackle deep themes while balancing human versus alien conflicts back in his debut of District 9. The movie was a hit at the box office and earned 4 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture and Best Adapted Screenplay. So, yeah. Neil Blomkamp is back, baby, and trying to see if he can strike gold once again. I had no idea that he directed Gran Turismo, but now that I think about it, I did hear really good things about it. There's one film that I do want to go ahead and check out for myself. But Stuart, I'm sure you're a Starship Troopers fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've probably seen District 9
Mm-hmm.
also. How do you feel about Neil Blomkamp taking over to adapt the novel, not so much a remake of the cult hit film?
Before I get into that, I just want to say when you first said Gran Turismo, I thought you said Gran Torino, and I'm like, what? No, there's no way. And then realized, Turismo, very, very different movies. But yes, okay. So I love this director. I love District 9, amazing movie. And I thought Chappie and Elysium were all right. It was really like the last. I want to say it was the last act of Chappie that I wasn't really the biggest fan of. And then just Elysium, I thought it looked cool, but it just didn't have, I don't know. It felt like it had one very specific thing to say, but it didn't have anything new to say with that topic, if that makes sense. It's literally just like something that people say, like talk about all the time, if that makes sense. So that all being said, though, him doing Starship Troopers is very interesting. I think what kind of gets me hesitant about it is that at some point in the article you mentioned that it's more about going to the source material, and kind of like in the source material, yeah, there is very much like kind of, I wouldn't know from experience because I haven't read it, but I would assume from what people have talked about it and from what the movie itself talks about with the book is that there's definitely some fascist undertones within the book. So I would be very curious if he goes with the with the original movie route of the fascist kind of undertones are still there, but now it's no longer an undertone. Now it's like kind of the forefront of the movie. It's like kind of like that, or if he goes in the way of recreating the book and then just like keeping those fascist undertones as simple undertones and then letting the audience decide whether or not the characters or the main characters we see that we follow are the good guys or the bad guys. Whereas compared to like kind of the original movie, I think they kind of made it clear by the very end that the humans were the bad guys. I'm wondering if his take on it will have much more of a, you have to decide for yourself if the humans are the good guys or the bad guys in this particular story. But yeah, it's a very interesting choice. And again, I haven't seen much from him in a long time. I didn't even know he directed Gran Turismo, so I'll definitely have to check that movie out. But at this moment, I'd say I'm intrigued, not hyped though, only because I don't know what to expect from this at all. But I love the original Starship Troopers movie. That movie makes me laugh every time. I think like it's one of my favorite Neil Patrick Harris performances, especially that end scene. Like that end scene where it's like, if you didn't catch on early on that the humans are the bad guys, here we go. Now we're telling it to you here, right here and now, and I just loved it. Just the way, and plus, not to mention, it's just a fun action movie on top of all of that. Like, if the satire doesn't get you, like if you don't find any of that funny, that's totally fine because you can just watch it as an action movie and just have an absolute blast. I think it's just one of those movies that delivers on everything. So, a remake of it, or I guess in this case, a reboot because it's more going to be based on the book. Again, curious about it. I wouldn't say hyped, but I am curious. I'll have to wait and see like other news as it comes out and, wait for that trailer to really get my thoughts on whether or not I should be excited for this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm a little bit hesitant on it, but I do think if there's anybody that can do justice to this film, I do think it is Neil Blomkamp. I there's a part of me that thinks to myself like, there's got to be another District 9 in you somewhere there, buddy. Like I just believe it in it, and I think the idea that he's going to be tackling Starship Troopers is sort of like the perfect, I don't want to say a layup, but like I feel like this is in his wheelhouse of what he can really kind of tackle. Based off of what some of the deep messaging and stuff that we wind up getting in District 9, I think he can bring those same undertones, like you said, from the book to the big screen for this new remake as well. I think he has a pretty good understanding of it. And I kind of hope it's similar to what you said, the idea of like allowing the audience to kind of pick up on these things. Because I feel like it's stories like this, especially I think just in society today, that I think can be really impactful. And I think if you can hit on the zeitgeist and the situation that we are in today's world with a story like this, I think you can have really big impact, and I think people will really be drawn to it. So I do think this is an opportunity. Again, I don't know if Neil Blomkamp would have been my first choice, but when I just look at some of his past work and what we got from District 9, it's just a part of me that thinks to myself, like, yeah, this feels like this is like a movie for him worth telling. And I do think that it's currently really in his wheelhouse. So I'm excited for this. It's been years, Stuart, since I've actually have watched Starship Troopers. It's probably been like a good 10 years, man, honestly. So I do need to sit down and rewatch it again as well. But it was one that I always certainly enjoyed. I mean, look, I was a big Denise Richards fan back in the day also. So, and I did love me some Neil Patrick Harris. So it was always a film that I certainly enjoyed, but I kind of want to revisit it now. Just to see if it hits me differently at my particular age and where I'm at right now. But the idea of him doing the novel, I do think allows for not only just a different retelling, but I don't know. I think this is a film that's meant for today's zeitgeist, though.
Something I would love to see them do in this movie. Excuse me. So my dad read the book before the movie came out, and he always said that in his headcanon, because he stole that from me, like how I always tell him about headcanon, where it's like, oh, in my head, I imagine this is what happens off screen. So he was like saying, hey, you know what, son? I have my own headcanon. In my headcanon, the Super Troopers movie exists within the Super Troopers book as a movie, as a propaganda movie. So I think that's what they should do with the remake. They should put the original Super Troopers movie in the remake, but as a movie in that universe, as a propaganda movie.
I kind of want to read the book now. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to read the book. Did you read the book?
I never did. No.
No. Okay. There's a part of me that kind of wants to read the book now before this comes out, just to see how vastly different the book is from, or the movie is from, the book itself. So I'm really curious. Chicken on the Stick says it is curious to get Neil when District 9 is still his best work all these years later. It really is. He says, wait, so it's not going to be a satire of military industrial complex? I don't know. I would be curious to see what route he goes.
Maybe it might be satire. It just might not be comedic satire, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you might be right. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts. Neil Blomkamp returns after his years of success from off of District 9. He unfortunately gave us Chappie and Elysium. Can he get back to his old ways with doing a remake of Starship Troopers, adapting the novel itself? Let us know your thoughts. I don't know. This is something about his style of filmmaking, and like I said, the messages that he wind up giving us in District 9 that I think can really tap into a Starship Troopers story. So he might be the best man for this job overall, but we'll have to see. He has a lot to prove for sure. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. Next up, Stuart. Oh, let me tell you something about this next story. Okay. I had no idea about this movie even existing until I read this story. And I thought to myself, when is this movie coming out? Tom Hardy has a brand new movie titled HAVOC that's going to be on Netflix here rather soon, believe it or not. I literally didn't even know that there was a teaser trailer out. I wound up watching the teaser trailer from myself yesterday. One of the reasons why we're bringing this up is because if you guys have ever seen a film by the name of The Raid, the director, Gareth Evans, is back, ladies and gentlemen. As somebody who was a big fan of not only the first Raid, which is as simple of an action film as you can get, to then go on to create a much more sophisticated sequel with just the same amount, if not better, action sequences as you can get. I am one of those few people that have been very disappointed that we never got ourselves a third Raid film to complete the trilogy. But the fact that Gareth Evans is even back in any capacity to do another movie has me excited, because I'm ready for that level of energy that we wind up getting from The Raid. And apparently it's coming relatively soon, as he is in fact teaming up with Tom Hardy to bring us the film HAVOC. This movie is set to go ahead and drop April 25th on Netflix. If you haven't checked out the official teaser trailer, I would highly recommend that you guys do so. But you say Gareth Evans and you say Tom Hardy, and I say yes, please. But they're back, and Empire Magazine wind up giving us a new article highlighting it. Gareth Evans' HAVOC isn't a martial arts film, but has Tom Hardy in effing beast mode. And it feels like Tom Hardy just continues to get more and more jacked. And I just love Gareth Evans' intensity when it comes to his action sequences. And with somebody like Tom Hardy, who just invests all of himself in this role, already looking like he's somebody that can kick your ass any time of the day. Yeah, I'm excited for this as an action film. It says Gareth Evans is undeniably one of the greatest action directors working today. I mean, he truly is. Like, I think outside of Chad Stahelski from John Wick, if you were to say what other action director you would get, give me Gareth Evans all day, man, all day. And now, over a decade after he delivered The Raid 2, he's back with his first action movie since the head-exploding sequel, Make Way for HAVOC, a bruising crime thriller packed with wince-worthy action, this time with Tom Hardy in the leading role, and where The Raid and its follow-up leaned into the martial arts prowess of Evans' regular collaboration with Iko Uwais. The brawls in HAVOC are tailored to Hardy's hulking physique. This is what Gareth Evans says. He says, it was never going to be a martial arts film. Speaking to the subtle shift in action subgenres, I wanted this to feel like a gunplay stuff that I love watching. You'll see Hardy blasting a shotgun above, but HAVOC also makes use of the A-listers' sheer heft. Gareth Evans says, Tom came to us in effing beast mode. I tapped him on the shoulder, and it was just like granite. He came fully physically prepared. And all of that is channeled into Walker, a detective having a very, very bad day. Walker is not silky smooth. He's going to cause as much carnage and as much mayhem as possible, Evans promises. He's not grabbing your wrists and turning it into an arm lock. He's grabbing you by the scruff of your neck and driving your face into the nearest heavy object.
Oh man, see, now we need to make sure he has an old angry police captain to go, damn it, I said do it by the books.
yes. I expect more of Evans' propensity for turning everyday objects into objects of terror in the middle of a do or die showdown. There's a sequence in a fishing shack where it's like an onslaught, a relentless attack. The director teases, promising guns, hooks, and harpoons galore. Every corner of this place, someone's going to pop up with a gun. Someone's going to pop up with a knife. They're going to come from under the floorboards, around the corners, through this window, through that window. Sounds like pure havoc. Stuart, the realization for me that this movie even existed is like Christmas to me, bro. Like, I feel like somebody had a gift wrapped and hid it in such a good place since Christmas that I have yet to have found it until yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, this has been here the whole time. And I opened it up, and it's just the most magical gift I could have ever asked for. As somebody who is a huge, huge fan of the first two Raid films by Gareth Evans, I mean, looking at the trailer when I watched it yesterday, I'm like, this is Gareth Evans. This is the same intensity, incredible cinematography, great camera work into bringing action back to its most sort of visceral moments. And I honestly could not have asked for a better actor to be in this role than Tom Hardy himself. I can't remember the last movie I saw him in. I think it was like this bikers film with the Butler kid that just did Elvis. I think they were like playing some bikers from Michigan. And
I know exactly which one. I totally forgot the name of it, but I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And even in that movie, my man was jacked. Tom Hardy was jacked. I don't know if he was like preparing himself for this HAVOC role or not, but you know, Tom Hardy's already a small guy. So for him to even come in more jacked and hefty as he is, I just think this is an incredible. Like, when I look at Tom Hardy, he's an intimidating dude to me. Like, just his physical prowess, the way that he carries himself, just some of his past roles that I've seen him in. So to combine that sort of a detective who is having a very, very bad day and put him in a situation like this. I think this is going to be balls to the walls action, and Gareth Evans showcasing why he's one of the best action directors out there again. So, again, if you haven't seen the teaser trailer, I recommend after the show, check it out for yourself. But man, action is back, baby. Action is back. I'm so pumped for this story. The bike riders. Yes, thank you.
For some reason I thought it was like a very different name, but yeah, I guess it's just the bike riders.
I thought it was like the bike riders and something else, but give it up to Chicken on a Stick. I don't know how many movies you've seen this year, Chicken on the Stick, but my man tries to get to like 1,000 movies a year if he's if he could. So yeah, I would be curious to know, Chicken on a Stick, how many movies have you seen so far this month, this deep into March? I am really curious. But yeah, man, he was great in the Bike Riders. I think he's going to be great in this too, Stuart. Have you heard about this movie at all, Stuart? Or is this your first time hearing about it?
This is my first time hearing about it, and it sounds awesome. Love the Raid movies, especially the first one. I mean, the first one has like one of my favorite, kind of, they take a trope that I hate with villains, but they make it awesome in this, which is I hate it when you have the overconfident villain that just has the chance to kill the hero, but he doesn't because he's cocky. But in this case, in the case of the Raid, I loved it because this guy actually could put his money where his mouth was, and it's like, okay, you know what, this dude has a right to be overconfident. I'm okay with this. So I love the first Raid movie. Second one's really awesome too. I think the first one's just a little more memorable is all. But yeah, so now he's coming back and we got Tom Hardy in the role and going beast mode. I'm all for it. The way he's describing Tom Hardy's character reminds me a lot because I've actually just started watching the Amazon series Reacher. And it sounds a lot like Reacher, in the sense that, the guy's just a tank, and can just tear through like anyone like tinfoil. So, if that's the kind of character we're getting in this, I am all for it. I love it when you get like, obviously it's not like, I love characters that have to struggle, that have to really work their way to get, to basically fight their way through enemies like it is. And it's like, a challenge. Obviously we need to still have those kind of heroes, the ones who are stepping up as a challenge for them. But I also do love it every now and then when we get a hero like this, one who is just like an absolute tank and will like just rip through anyone. And, if you're going to want to challenge, if you're going to challenge this guy, you got to find a bigger tank. I love those kind of characters every now and then. I don't want every action hero to be like that, but when we do have them, sprinkled in throughout all these other action movies, I love it. So yeah, no, this sounds awesome.
Yeah, man, I honestly cannot wait for this. Also, real quick, shout out to Chicken on a Stick. He says he hasn't seen any movies this year. He says after seeing 1016 last year, I needed a serious break, and that's a real number, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys want to check out Chicken and a Stick, put your social media stuff in the live chat. He's got a great podcast. He reviews movies. But yeah, my man literally watched over 1,000 movies last year. I would see his stuff pop up almost like weekly. He would either rate his movies or showcase all the movies that he watched. I'm just like, bro, what do you do in your spare time? But yeah, he watches a ton of movies, man. So if you're always looking for a good perspective on films, check out Chicken on a Stick for sure. But yeah, man, I'm pumped for this. I didn't know this movie was coming out as soon as it was. Again, if you guys are interested, HAVOC, starring Tom Hardy, directed by Gareth Evans, April 25th on Netflix. Give it a shot, especially if you're a big Tom Hardy fan, like we certainly are. I think that might be our last story. I think I'm going to axe the sixth story just based off of time alone. Unless you wanted to get into it. I don't know if you wanted to get
I'm
into
good.
You're good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, guys, that will be our last topic of the day. And with that out of the way, Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into our live viewer question portion of the show. Let me go ahead and put on some music here. Get this started. All right. Let me go ahead and bring this up here. If you want to ever drop a live viewer question, how do you do so? Go over to our page, like so. Here, go over to our YouTube page, and every Saturday, either afternoon or morning, we'll go ahead and drop a post. Click on this post tab right here, and voila. Well, if you follow us, it should pop up on your timeline as well. So if you're not following the channel, please go ahead and slam that subscribe button, guys. It definitely does go a long way. But every Saturday or Saturday afternoon or evening, we'll go ahead and drop a post for you guys. And let's go ahead and dive into some of these questions today. Marcelino in the house. What's up, Marcelino? When it comes to Astra and Nam, aka season 1 Supergirl villains, they are forgettable simply because they are poor man's version of Zod, who is just a generic evil. Astra was a little more memorable, but that's only because she had the family connection with Kara. And when it comes to killing her off in the middle of the season and replacing her with Nam, many felt contrived because even though she was mostly boring, she still had more potential than Nam did. Yeah, I kind of felt that way too. And while the writers never fully went into reasoning why they went in the direction they did, I see a theory on Reddit that helps showcase that this Redditor believes the writers were going for. I think the writers were trying to say that Astra and Nam, while evil, also had the potential to turn good. Nam was ready to use violent means to conquer Earth, while Astra was more reasonable. I think the writers were trying to convey that the love the two had for each other is the reason why Nam didn't just already go through his violent methods. But once Astra was killed, Nam finally snapped because the last person in his corner was taken from him. Similar to Willow's arc from Buffy season 6, where once Willow became addicted to magic, it cost her relationship with Tara, and she tried to reform. And even after their breakup, Tara was still Willow's corner, and they eventually got back together. But once Tara was murdered, Willow finally snapped and went full berserk. I think that's the directions we're trying to convey, but because of the poor execution and lack of chemistry between the two actors, it fell off. Do you agree with this? I'm trying to remember, man. Season 1 has been such a long time ago for me. I don't know. When I think of it, again, it's been so long, so maybe I'm reading the situation wrong, or maybe I'm confusing it with something else. A part of me was always under the impression that he always wanted to go to war, but she didn't. And in order to kind of just get his way, he needed her kind of out of the way. And then it then pushed him to be able to get what he wanted, which was more power. You know, whether or not that means that they loved each other or not, or this was like his ultimate moment and he wanted to take advantage of it, but he felt like he was being held back and wanted to kill her. Maybe that's what it was. I cannot remember if I'm reading the room correctly, Stuart. When I rethink of season 1, it's been such a long time, but it would not surprise me if the Reddit's reasoning behind it is correct. I just cannot remember season 1 as perfectly as I would like to.
I'm going with the idea that is what they were going for. It would make sense because usually when it comes to Supergirl, they try to give their villains like they try to humanize their villains to an extent. Like, obviously they don't want, it's not like every villain is going to be redeemable, but every villain, usually you can kind of see where they're coming from. You can definitely see like, oh, okay, this guy was definitely dealt either this guy was dealt a bad hand at life, or this guy came from this kind of a place. And so you can kind of see, it's why I thought they were going to do that with Supergirl's dad, because that first episode where he first appears in season 6 and he sees that like Earth is following the same like path as Krypton, I'm like, ooh, are they kind of going to repeat season 1 and have another Kryptonian villain who thinks that we need to change or else we'll make the same mistakes? But then they ended up doing nothing with that. So yeah, I do think that's what they were going for. I think what they wanted more than anything was just to show that, hey, even though this guy's evil, there was a human side to him, but that human side was killed off, when she died. And I believe, was it Alex that killed her? I forgot. Like, she killed her with the Kryptonian knife?
With Krypton, I think so, yeah. Just rewatched season 1. They kind of came across as Astra and Nam possibly being good, but when Astra died, it pushed Nam over the edge. So yeah, you guys might be rating that right then. It's just been so long since I've watched it. I've smoked since then, I've slept since then, and I'm in my 40s right now, so my memory is kind of shot, y'all. Okay. Zack Snyder has recently said that there exists a 3 hours director's cut of Sucker Punch and that it helps fix every problem the movie had. What do you think?
I mean, for what it was, the movie didn't really have too many. I didn't have any problems with it, so I'm cool with the movie as it is. I don't need a 3-hour cut.
Yeah, I don't think I minded it. I don't think I hated it as much as other people did. But I only saw it once in theaters and didn't go back to see it again. My thing is, look, Zack Snyder's got to be the one director that has more director's cut than anybody in the world. I feel like every movie this guy produces, like, wait, but I got a director's cut to this that you're gonna like even better. Look, my thing is, like, as a director, bro, your job is literally to make the best movie that you can at a particular time limit for your audience that's supposed to kind of come out. Like, if you are not capable of making a 2-hour film that's good and hits all the points that you need, that's going to be released in theaters, like, why am I paying you all this money, dog? Like, if I'm just going to have to not, so then I'm not fully satisfied as a consumer. Now I got to consume a 3-4 hour product of your movie. Like, it's just one of those things. Like, I think your job as a director is literally to bring your film down to a consumable amount of time as best as you possibly can. If every movie you do has to be 3 to 4 hours to consume, I'm questioning you as a director, dog. I'm just being honest with you. Like, Sucker Punch, your best movie should have been what Sucker Punch was when it was released. And if I gotta watch 3 or 4 hours of your movie to get the point, you're doing something wrong, my guy. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, he says, I'm all for directors shooting their vision. However, you should also have someone who can tell you when something is too much. Yeah, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, I do love a good director's cut. Don't get me wrong. I love being able to see your vision. But at the same time, like, you got to be able to make a concise, tight, good movie in the time frame that is kind of given to you. And if you can't do that, I got some questions, man.
Sorry.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, 90% of the time, director's cuts are actually worse than the actual theatrical cut we get. We enjoy them more because we saw the original cut of the movie first, and so we just, we think of, when we watch the director's cut on top of the original movie, we think of all the cool stuff that's added to it that makes the original movie just that much better. But I think that what a lot of us won't admit to ourselves is that if we saw the original, or if we saw the extended cut of Lord of the Rings before watching the original, a lot of us would not have liked Lord of the Rings. It would not have gone on to be as popular as it is right now. Everyone loves the extended cuts if they've seen the original, but I don't know anyone whose first time watching Lord of the Rings was the extended cut and them coming out with a positive mindset. That's the thing. Director's cuts, I love them. They're great if you love the movie, but if it's something like Sucker Punch for me, where I just went in, thought the movie was fun, okay, I'm not going to watch a director's cut of that. I don't care if it's like someone saying, oh no, it's a masterpiece compared to this. It's like, no, it's not worth it. If I didn't love, if I wasn't engaged with the original, it's not worth watching the director's cut.
I will say kudos to Zack Snyder and his Snyder cut of Justice League.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that movie. I love that movie. I think it's top notch, honestly. But again, I hadn't seen his regular version before what Josh Whedon wind up doing, so I don't really have anything to compare it with except for Josh Whedon stuff. Yeah. But the Zack Snyder extended cut for that, like, that's the only extended cut of anything that you've produced that I need to see, unless there's like a Dawn of the Dead extended cut out there that maybe I might want to check out for myself.
Actually, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I wouldn't be opposed to that one. And I'm glad you said that. Let me tell you something. One of the most difficult decisions for me as a Lord of the Rings fan is when I say I want to watch Lord of the Rings, and I got to choose between the theatrical and the extended cut, because I'm like, dude, do I really want to spend 4 hours of my life doing this? But I normally will always choose the extended cut every time. It might be multiple sittings, but I choose the extended cut all the time.
Yeah, because you love the original, though. But if it was your first time watching, you wouldn't choose the extended cut, right?
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. There's one criticism that the Marvels received that I find interesting. One thing people point out is that it feels like 2 movies in one. When it comes to the flashback sequences where Carol destroyed the AI on the Kree planet, many felt that that was Captain Marvel 2 inside of Captain Marvel 3. Many people said that their flashbacks should have their own movie. Then the third Captain Marvel 3 deals with Fallout. You agree with that? I kind of do. I like the Marvels. Don't get me wrong. I kind of do. But I there was a part of me that when I would see the flashback stuff, there was a part of me that felt like, man, I felt like I missed out on something. But maybe that's just me.
I kind of feel the same way, only because it's like, oh man, it's so weird. It feels like it's both focused and not focused enough at the same time, which I know is a contradiction, but in the way of like, you know, she talks about how it kind of devastates her, but like she doesn't show it in her actions because she, you know, basically fights crime the exact same way we see her doing, you know, at the end of her first movie, at the end of Endgame. So it's like, you know, she makes it seem like she feels bad for what she's done, but we don't see her actually feeling bad with her actions. We only see it in the fact that she doesn't tell Monica about it. So I think that if we had actually seen it as a movie, it could have made that whole thing like a lot. I don't know. I think that it would have been easier to digest, I guess, in a way, if we saw that play out in a movie. But when we see it through flashbacks, it's really hard to engage how she actually felt about her actions.
Yeah, I would agree. I just feel like there was 2 different movies kind of going on. I do think the idea of it being the Marvels and having Photon and Miss Marvel in there feels like a trilogy sort of ending type of film. Again, I enjoyed the Marvels for certainly what it was, but I can see why people would feel that way for sure. I did feel like there should have been some other movie to kind of break that all up. And then last comment, the biggest problem the SJW community, social justice warrior community faces isn't the anti-woke crowd, it's the constant infighting within the community. SJWs normally support other SJWs that hold the same mindset as them, but if there's an SJW that have different mindset, even with the intentions are good and have positive outcomes, they'll discard it if it doesn't align with their viewpoints. For example, Gal Gadot says she wants female action heroes to have more femininity to them and not just a woman who's in a man's role with 0 changes. Okay. And Jenna Ortega wants there to be more female-led franchises built from scratch and not having it to be more of a passing of the torch that were previously run by male leads. Fair enough. I don't have a problem with any of those. My problem is that they treat as the only way for women to become more prominent, and if anyone else thinks opposite, then they then discard it. The people with different opinions are in no way affiliated with the anti-woke crowd. They have different opinion. They still promote the same goal. If anyone says that they want more female action heroes with 0 feminine qualities and want them to be more masculine, Gal Gadot and her followers aren't going to support them on what they believe, or if they get attacked by the toxic crowd who scream woke, all they say is you're on your own, and the same thing happens in reverse. If Gal Gadot and Jenna Ortega really want what they want, then they should also support other SJWs who have the opposite viewpoint, and SJWs who have different viewpoints should support Gal Gadot and Jenna Ortega as well. Both sides have the same goal, they just have different methods of how to get there. Gal Gadot is on one side, Jenna is on one side. People who disagree with them are on one side, and I'm somewhere in the middle to unite anyone. This is trying to appease everyone. This isn't trying to make everyone have the same opinion under one umbrella. This is me trying to unite multiple noble causes who all have different methods but share the same goal. And if someone's been harassed by toxic anti-woke crowd, or we support them regardless of our differences. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know about that one, Marcelino. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think I feel like that's almost every crowd, whether that's SJWs or even anti-woke crowds. I feel like there's some anti-woke crowds that maybe don't necessarily all agree on the same thing, maybe have the same vision, but they probably have little things here and there that make significant differences that still put them against each other. I'm not saying I'm okay with that. I'm very much in the sense agree with you in the sense that, like, you know, our motives are all the same. in the sense of, we all have the same goals that we want to achieve, and that it does us a disservice to, I do agree that it does us a disservice to fight amongst each other when we do have sort of the same vision kind of in mind. Because to me, Jenna Ortega and Gal Gadot, if they both hold that same mindset, they both technically want the same thing. And so I think it is certainly achievable. I just don't, we are just very much in a tribalistic society these days, where it's like you either go with the way that I want it to be done, or you're on a completely different side than me, and that's the only way that it can be done. When in reality, it's like, bro, we all want the same thing, right? Like, we all need to find some level of connectivity in order to kind of achieve those goals. And maybe by achieving those goals, maybe there's an amalgamation of both of those ideas kind of mixed into one, right? Like, there is a sense of compromise that I think compromise these days is a really sort of nasty word for a lot of people. It's usually this or that. You can't kind of have both, and that's a lie. Like, you certainly can have both. So I do wish that people would be willing to compromise on things, but I just think it is a very selfish and tribalistic world that we kind of live in. I appreciate what you're trying to do, Marcelino, for sure, because I do agree with you that we are all going for the same thing. We should all compromise in some way to get what it is that we want to achieve. It's just very hard these days in society, unfortunately.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't excuse to say that. But yeah, no, I think it kind of reminds me of that like James Cameron quote that he said like back when Wonder Woman came out, and it's like this. I love Terminator 2. I love Sarah Connor, and I think that he did a great job of making a very strong woman, action hero, right? But I disagree with what he said about Wonder Woman, where he said that Wonder Woman was a step backwards because, she has these powers. So therefore, her struggle against, when she's fighting against Nazis, like during World War One, it's not as much of a struggle as it would be for like an everyday action hero, like person without powers. And I think that's a dumb quote, because then it's like you're trying to say that, you can't have a strong woman on screen unless they're struggling, unless they're constantly having to struggle to push themselves forward. And it's like, but how many man action heroes do we have that don't have that? Like, you get plenty of Gary Stews that no one's going to complain about, like Reacher, like I brought up earlier. I love that show, but he is definitely a Gary Stew. James Bond is definitely a Gary Stew. But it's like when you have a Mary Sue, suddenly that's bad writing, and it's like, if it's so weird how, like what Marcelino says, everyone has like a very specific idea of how a woman has to be written for her to be a good character. And it's just like, no, because when we limit ourselves, then we prevent ourselves from being really able to explore like different types of characters. And you don't see when someone's writing a man character going, no, for him to be a strong character, he has to be written this exact way. It's like, no, let the writers cook, let them do what they want to do with these characters. Sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's going to be absolute crap. I do kind of agree overall. Like, I want more women representation, but I don't want it to be limited. Like, oh, we have to represent them this specific way for it to, be powerful. It's like, no, you don't. You can represent them however you want.
Yeah. If it still establishes the same goal, your methods of getting there, it's creatively is all up to you. You know what I mean? And we should be okay with that. We shouldn't have to limit people to showcasing that in any way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, appreciate that, Marcelino. And yeah, I think it happens on both sides, not just for SJWs.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean, it happens on both sides. Jessica Fryman, do you think Disney should have put Snow White on Disney Plus? And when do you think the new season of My Adventures of Superman will come out? I haven't heard anything for the next season of My Adventures of Superman. Have you, Stuart? Do you know anything?
I would hope like towards the end of this year. But I know that it's definitely renewed.
As far as should they have put Snow White on Disney Plus, I don't know. I don't know what this box office is going to look like. I'm hearing that they are like really pulling back on the marketing of this movie a lot. I don't know if they have faith in this movie anymore, or the the drama around it is really having to try and hide this movie a little bit. I don't know. I mean, you put a lot of money in this movie. You better release it in theaters. You know, I think it has to be theatrical in order to kind of get any money back. But yeah, so no, I don't necessarily think they should have released it on Disney Plus. I mean, release it theatrically and just let the chips fall where they may. You know, if this was going to be a Disney Plus movie, then, you know, maybe not so large of a budget, but I think they already made their bed in allowing this to be a theatrical release. The Most Talented Man in the World, the 2013 film This Is the End, presented itself a harsh and self-aware apocalyptic comedy featuring Seth Rogen and his entourage of comedic friends playing exaggerated versions of themselves. However, behind the cover of lighthearted absurdity lay a moment of profound discomfort and severe reminder of the power dynamics at play on film sets. Emma Watson, appearing on herself, famously exited the production after encountering an improvised scene that depicted her character facing sexual violence and cannibalism involving Channing Tatum and Danny McBride. The scene, intended to be edgy and shocking, crossed the line, revealing a significant disconnect between the filmmaker's intent and the actor's experience. Seth Rogen's subsequent acknowledgement of the incident, expressing regret for not ensuring Watson's comfort, underscores the importance of fostering a safe and respectful environment, particularly when improvisation is involved. Watson's own lack of vocalization at the time highlights the challenging position actors, especially women, can find themselves in when confronted with uncomfortable or exploitative situations. The incident raises crucial questions about the responsibility of filmmakers to protect their actors, the potential for improvisation to change into harmful territory, and the courage it takes for individuals to speak out against perceived injustices. In an industry where power imbalances persist, how can producers ensure that all actors, regardless of their status, feel empowered to voice their concerns and maintain their boundaries?
It sucks because, you know, when you think of, like, if I say it out loud, it sounds simple, you know, just make it clear as a director for your actors that, you know, they are free to speak up if something makes them uncomfortable. Especially, okay, so like This Is the End, love that movie, very edgy, like raunchy comedy, right? If there's going to be if you're going to improvise in a movie like that, and you're going to add like something like, you know, in a sexual or violent nature in that improvisation, you need to communicate that with your other actors, with your other co-stars, with the director. You need to make sure everyone's on the same page when you're doing improv, because improv doesn't just give you free range to do whatever you want. And I'm sure, like, you know, whatever happened, I'm sure they didn't intend to make her feel uncomfortable. I'm sure they probably just thought, oh yeah, she can go with the flow, right? But you know, that's just, it's what sucks about the industry, is that, like, you know, it seems on, like, when you say it out loud, it seems like it should be so easy for actors to just be able to say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. Can we stick with the script or something along those lines? And it just sucks that that's not the case. So I want to say what directors need to do is speak up and let their actors know, but I don't know if that's enough, because I haven't myself worked in the film industry, so I don't know if there's like other things that go on. If like maybe one of her co-stars were the ones pressuring her not to talk to the director or something along those lines. It's really hard to say. James Franco was on set, so I wouldn't doubt if like he was one of the people like telling her not to, you know, complain or anything like that.
Yeah, you know, we know what James Franco got into. Yeah, he has some issues too. So
exactly. So like, yeah, that sucks to hear. I actually hadn't heard about this until reading this comment, because her one role, like her small part that they ended up keeping in the movie, I thought was fun, one of those kind of funny, like really dark but funny kind of miscommunication like kind of moments. But now, like, hearing about this, it kind of makes that scene less funny and now more like, I don't know if I can ever watch that scene the same way now.
yeah, I don't know what you can do. I mean, outside of, look, I mean, I guess also, especially if you like, just directors in general, especially when it comes to like comedy and whatnot. I mean, if you're the type of director that is open to improvisations, you know, to certain things, you know, maybe have a staff meeting and a cast meeting. Like, you know, I will ask you to improv, but if you do improv, let's avoid sexual contact or a sexual promiscuity that might make other people kind of feel uncomfortable. Or if you know it's a particular type of scene where that's the type of improv that you want, just be like, yeah, I'm going to give you guys a freedom to improv, but also ask your people that are acting, like, what's your level of comfortability here? You know, like, are you okay if something like this were to happen or not? Because then, yeah, you are kind of crossing people's boundaries. I don't know if it was a physical contact or if it was just I mean, she did say something like cannibalism and some shit like that. Like, I mean, that when I watched that moment, I'm like, holy shit. Anyway, right? Like, it is just it is very much a shocking sort of moment. So to kind of depict then Emma Watson in that scene, it is now even more cringeworthy kind of hearing it if they went to those type of levels, you know. I mean, this is kind of like a bro comedy and you got all your bros around. It is one of the situations like where an improv, I think, can go really terribly wrong if people aren't communicating properly. And the fact that she didn't feel safe in that environment to communicate that, I think definitely says something. You know, it's interesting that this question got brought up because I literally just came across a clip of Deborah Ann Wall from Daredevil sitting across from John Bernthal, and they had this interview, and she was talking about she got upset and offended by an improv scene where they hadn't talked about how they were going to improv or whatever, but one of her co-stars improved her kissing her to get like a shocked reaction out of her. And she said she felt some type of way about it happening. One, because he didn't ask for permission to do that. But she also felt some type of way, like just from an actor perspective of the director not giving her some fair warning, because apparently the director had told the actor to do this as part of the improv and never consulted her about it. And so she says she felt kind of disrespected in the sense that as an actor, like, she should be able to not only know that that's coming up, but also be able to perform that role of shock or surprise or whatever the case may be. And she said she got offended at the idea that she felt that her director didn't have the faith in her as an actor to be able to still provide that same sort of response by knowing it, compared to the idea of thinking you can only get that response out of her if it's improv, you know, and feel like a more genuine kind of reaction. And so I'm sure that there was a level of not only feeling disrespected as an actor to think that you can't come off as shocked and surprised authentically, and also offended at the idea that, like, he didn't talk to her about this moment, especially when it comes to having to have like a kissing scene when you didn't approve of that in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's kind of crazy that I literally just watched this clip yesterday and this question kind of comes up also. So yeah, it just shows you, I think, the process of filmmaking, what goes on sets aren't always the most comfortable positions for women to be in, and I think we should be a little bit more mindful of that type of thing, you know.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about the topic, I can't even remember the name of the show, but it's the spinoff of Euphoria. But it was not spinoff, but it's made by the same guy that did Euphoria. It had Johnny Depp's daughter in it. I can't remember the name of that show, but not a good show anyway. So they had this whole first episode where they were talking about the struggle of having an intimacy coordinator on set. And the thing that pissed me off about the whole scene is that rather than complaining about the fact that we've gotten to a point where, like, movie sets are so bad that we have to have an intimacy coordinator on there, like, you know, because people are just that bad that we, you know, that this is actually necessary. No, they don't complain about any of that. They only complain about the intimacy coordinator and the fact that he's there. They don't bring up the reason we have to have intimacy coordinators nowadays. They just go, oh man, he's ruining the vibe of this whole shoot, man, screw this guy. And so he ends up being like the butt end of the joke for doing his job like he's supposed to do. And it's just like, right from that, it's when I knew, oh wow, I can already see why everyone hates this show. And that was alone the moment where I'm like, yeah, I don't need to watch this.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's pretty crazy out there, y'all. Let's see. Power of the Morphing Grid. Ranger Keys versus the Ranger Vault. The Power Ranger franchise, spanning decades, has introduced a plethora of morphing technology, each with its unique origins and implications. Two prominent examples: the Ranger Keys of Super Mega Force and the Ranger Vault of Beast Morphers, offer a fascinating comparison in how the franchise approaches its rich history and the mechanics of Ranger power. Super Mega Force adapted the Gokaiger, introducing Ranger Keys representing past Rangers. However, these keys lack narrative grounding, a point of contention exacerbated by Zachar's insistence of Super Sentai footage over coherent storytelling. The keys were the keys were quietly abandoned, even in Dimensions of Danger, where Gia used her primary Megamorph powers, Megaforce powers. The legendary battle itself, however, remained canon as confirmed in Dino Fury. In contrast, Beast Morphers featured the Ranger Vault, repository of past Ranger Morphers and weapons housed at Grid Battle Force. This vault provided a logical connection to the past seasons, allowing Grid Battle Force to study and develop their own Morph X technology. The Source Code episode showcased the young Nate Silva studying these morphers, including the Gosei Morpher, signifying a quiet abandonment of the Ranger Keys. The contrasting approaches reveal a significant shift in narrative strategy. Super Mega Force relied on simplistic keys, failing to integrate them meaningfully, while Beast Morphers grounded its legacy in the Ranger Vault. The 30th anniversary specials like MMPR, Once and Always, and Cosmic Fury further solidified the Vault's importance. A second Ranger Vault was revealed in Cranston's Technology, where Alpha 9 retrieved Billy's stealth tech projectors. This vault, crucial for the Bandora Protocol against Robo Rita and Lord Zed, contained morphers and weapons Billy had returned to past Rangers, implying Grid Battle Force borrowed a smaller subset. This careful attention to continuity highlighted the evolution of the franchise. Which method was a better option, the unexplained discarded keys or the logically integrated, narratively significant Ranger Vaults? I like the Ranger Vaults personally. I always thought that they, from just like a narrative perspective, made a lot of sense to me. I mean, this is just like Adam asking, like, hey, Gosei, why was I green but now black, or black and now green? And he's got no explanation for the dude. And it's the same thing with the Ranger Keys. Cool gimmick, maybe great for toy sales, but as far as like emphasis and explaining the concept behind them, sort of thing, I think certainly a missed opportunity. But I love the way that they utilized the Ranger Vaults. To me, canonically, those always really made sense.
Yeah, I like the Ranger Keys, just not how they were utilized. I think it was a cool thing on paper, and I think Gokaiger did a great job with them. But yeah, obviously execution wise, not the best, but I do love the Ranger Vaults. It makes sense that you would want to archive everything, and especially for when the threat that said Ranger team like defeated inevitably comes back, because they always come back. Oh, I think you're muted.
Blossom. Oh wait, shout out to 17 Samurai. What's up, 17 Samurai? I appreciate you making the cut here today and joining us for our live viewer questions. Blossom in the house. Do you remember the X-Men 97 episode with Jubilee and Roberto were inside a video game? How'd it be if my Ranger somehow got inside one and needed assistance from the VR troopers to get them out? I mean, as long as you've got a good storyline that explains why and how they're in there in the first place, then okay. If it connects to the overall bigger story that you're trying to tell, then okay. I personally was not a fan of that episode. That was like one of my worst episodes of X-Men 97. I'm not a big fan of, what's his name, Mondo. I didn't really care for him in there, so I like the idea of VR troopers coming in to help him out, but I didn't care for the episode. So you might be on your own on this one, Blossom, however you want to handle that. But yeah, speaking of video games, I also imagine there are virtual games similar to Street Fighter and things like that in an Alien arcade. My Rangers will set foot there down the road. There's even a game similar to that card game War, but it's like blackjack, sort of interesting. But again, if it's down the road and you got an interesting reason as to why they should be there in the first place, then cool. But if it's just like just gonna plop them in there, I would avoid against it. But if you've got a reason for them to be in there, then by all means go for it.
You should include the video game Roy from Rick and Morty, the one where you literally live an entire life in like 5 minutes.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check that one out.
Oh man, it was one of the funniest bits because you just like you're suddenly like following this guy named Roy that you know nothing about, but you're watching his whole life story of him fighting cancer and like working at a carpet store, and then he just suddenly dies, and then suddenly like you see Morty taking the VR helmet off, going like, what was that? What was that? I'm Morty, you're Rick, and oh wait, you sold a weapon to a terrorist. I love that show.
I wish I watched more Rick and Morty, man. I really do. I need to get back on my game. Let's see here. My friends call me Joseph. Happy Gilmore 1996 wasn't just a film, it was a hole-in-one of comedic genius. And now Happy Gilmore 2 is teeing off with director Kyle Newacek, slated for the July 25th Netflix release. The teaser trailer has fans for this excitement. I see what you did there. But also wondering if this sequel can avoid the rough patches of long-awaited follow-up. Sandler, aware of critical sand traps from his 2010 films, spent years chipping away at the script to ensure it felt as genius as the original. Will this sequel be a fair way to success, or will it bogey under the weight of expectations? Bro, I love that. The whole paragraph was fantastic. How long did it take you to write that? I'm kind of curious. The return of familiar faces and tribute to Carl Weathers shows a commitment to the honor, he continues, not just a putt for profit. If Happy Gilmore 2 lands a birdie, it raises the question, what other Sandler classic deserves a modern swing? Big Daddy, for example, has fans clamoring for a sequel, a grand slam of sentiment. Could a successful Happy Gilmore 2 pave the way for Sandler to drive down a memory lane, balancing his dramatic role with well-crafted comedic sequels? Could this be a perfect way to connect with his original audiences and bring in new fans, providing Sandler's comedic game is still strong? Kudos to you, Joseph. Honestly. Yeah, that was great.
I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how Happy Gilmore does. I just haven't really enjoyed Adam Sandler movies in a long time, and it's not because he gets less funny over the time. I think it's just because he doesn't really change, and he's used kind of the same shtick for so long, and it just stopped being funny after a while. So Happy Gilmore, here's the thing, if it does everything that a sequel should do, it may end up not working because, again, it kind of goes with the same problems of like just if it's gonna give us everything we loved about Happy Gilmore, that's going to probably mean repeating a lot of the jokes that worked, and therefore it just will fall more under Adam Sandler doing the same thing again. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I actually, if they did a Big Daddy remake, I'm very curious which of the twins they would use for the kid, or if they would use both, like have them as adults switching in and out. That would be kind of funny because I feel like as an adult you'd be able to see the difference in the subtle differences between the two of them more. But yeah, I'd be kind of curious about a Big Daddy too, seeing where they would go with that. But yeah, it'll all depend.
Yeah, I mean, I did like his film with like him and the kids. Didn't he have one with him and him and his buddies? What was his recent one?
The Grown-Ups?
The Grown-Ups. I did like the first one. I don't think I ever saw the second one. I did like the first one. But as far as like revisiting some of his classics, I don't know if I ever saw Big Daddy. I remember clips of Big Daddy. I don't know if I ever saw Big Daddy. Maybe that might warrant one. The first one that comes to my head is Waterboy, but I'm just thinking to myself, like, what would you do with Waterboy nowadays that would actually even be funny? So maybe the time for a Waterboy sequel is kind of past. The one that comes to mind that I have really wanted a sequel for, and I don't think they're ever going to do it, is 50 First Dates with Drew Barrymore. I don't think they've ever done a sequel to it, but it is one that I personally would really love to see. I That's one of my favorite Adam Sandler movies. I would love to see a sequel to that one. I just don't see it ever happening though. But maybe we'll see how Happy Gilmore 2 does. I mean, it's a Netflix film, so we'll see if there's any how well it does. I was gonna say box office, but we'll see how it does viewership wise. Maybe maybe it will catch fire because it's a streaming service movie. Kind of like the Coming to America sequel with Eddie Murphy. I feel like sequels like this probably have an audience set for streaming than more box office. So Happy Gilmore 2 may be successful from a viewership standpoint.
Yeah. The other thing, just because brought it up earlier, Grown Ups 2. So what's funny is that I don't like that movie overall, but it has one joke that I can't deny I love, which is you had Shaquille O'Neal, and then I can't remember the actor's name, but someone else playing his brother who's like a lot shorter. And so they don't like say throughout the whole movie which is the older brother, which one's the younger brother, but you just kind of assume because Shaquille O'Neal is huge that he's the older brother. But you get to the scene where there's like this giant brawl at the end, and Shaquille O'Neal ends up rescuing like his brother from someone who's like nugging him. And he's like, no one nuggies my brother, so he like throws him across the field, and the guy's just like, hey, I had that. Shaquille O'Neal's like, oh, I know you did, big brother. He's like, get out of here. And then Shaquille O'Neal, just being twice as big of him, is like, oh, don't hurt me. And I'm just like, okay, that's adorable, because that just reminds me way too much of my relationship with my brother. So I'm like, okay, that is adorable. Other than that, it's a bad movie, but it has that one joke going for it.
And then we have one last question here. Oh, I'm sorry. I still got Ram Jams.
Oh, yeah.
Marky Parko, Sadie Sink in Spider-Man 4. The speculation surrounding Sadie Sink's potential casting of Spider-Man 4 has ignited fan theories, with many envisioning her as Jean Grey, offering a compelling entry point for the X-Men into the MCU. Given Parker's isolation following the events of No Way Home, where his identity has been erased, including MJ and Ned, Jean's introduction could provide a unique dynamic. Her telepathic abilities could offer Peter a rare connection, potentially even a way to navigate his profound loneliness. This would be a more grounded X-Men introduction than the meta-heavy Deadpool and Wolverine, with Peter now pursuing his GED and fully embraces Spider-Man role. It would mark a significant shift in his life, mirroring the character's evolution in the comics. Emotional connections. Jean's telepathic abilities could offer Peter a way to cope with his isolation, as she might be able to sense and understand his emotional state, providing a unique form of support. X-Men integration. Her presence would organically introduce the X-Men into the MCU, setting the stage for future crossovers without relying on multiverse or meta narrative loopholes. And then character growth. Peter's shift to full-time Spider-Man, coupled with the loss of his supporting system, would force him to adapt and grow, making Jean's introduction a pivotal moment in his journey. We've talked a lot about the idea of her being a particular role, but I kind of want to talk a little bit about how, if anything, they could make Jean Grey work. One, I think it would be interesting because I would be under the impression that Jean Grey would probably be about the same age as Peter. I don't know if she would be a classmate somehow at Empire University before she becomes a student over at Xavier's Institute, or maybe she already is and they bump into each other on a heroic side. I just think that there's got to be a natural reason for her to be there instead of just being plopped in. You know what I mean? Like her showing up already as an X-Men. I mean, maybe she is already an X-Men at this particular point in time, but I don't know. It would have to feel kind of organic for me, but I kind of dig the idea of her using her telepathic abilities to offer Peter a way to cope with his isolation. But I would also think, like, for him to be able to check on Ned along with MJ, in the sense of, whether she would use her abilities to infiltrate their minds to kind of give a sense of Peter, like, are they doing okay? Or, does anybody remember him? Or maybe this is a way like Jean Grey can come in and allow Ned and MJ to remember him, right? Like maybe finding a way to wipe away Doctor Strange's spell, but only on a handful of people. I do think her involvement could certainly work here. What do you think, those two?
Yeah. It's funny because like you said earlier, we kind of talked about all the things that wouldn't work about it. We didn't think about like why they would choose Jean Grey, because I think just because when I think Marvel, especially recently, I think just like, doing it when they put characters in a certain movie, I don't think they really think story wise how that would work. I think they think marketing and that's it. So I think that's what I was thinking in my head when we were talking about, is that through their perspective, they were only thinking marketing. But if there is actually a story reason for her to be in there, I think this actually works really well as like her kind of being like, I don't want to say like a full-on therapist, but just someone who could really help Peter deal with what he's going through, because Peter's the kind of guy that will, put all of his frustration into little boxes and then just store them in the back of his head. And I think that, he would probably need someone like Jean Grey to really like help him like, process, everything that he's going through, especially being, in isolation.
And I think also too, it would be interesting if she's one of the few people that knows who he is, based off of her abilities. Like maybe she is one of the few people that can understand who Peter secretly is, knowing his identity, and kind of relate to him a little bit. Like maybe she's under the guise of being there. Like again, we don't really know what the point is, or the premise or plot of Spider-Man 4 outside of the idea that Amy Pascal has said, he's fully engulfed in being Spider-Man right now, that he's kind of forgetting who Peter Parker is and he's focusing just on the hero aspect of things. And we don't know if this is after the events of an Avengers Doomsday, if this is between Doomsday and Secret Wars. Is this a battle world kind of scenario? But like the idea of like maybe Jean Grey being one of the few people, due to her mutant abilities along with that of like Professor X, that has managed to avoid forgetting who Peter Parker is, or her abilities being able to figure out who he is and help guide him kind of through the idea of becoming a hero again, or finding sort of that balance in his life. Like maybe she is under disguise as a college student in here and is one of the few people that can help Peter, like you said, in a therapist sort of way, or really speak to him in ways that nobody else would, because she truly knows who he is, and help him kind of be the hero that people need to be. I mean, if anything, like if we're talking about Battle World, where they have talked about like in the comics, there's usually like that one person that remembers everything about what happened in the past. Maybe Jean Grey is that to Peter Parker. Like maybe Peter is the person, instead of like Miss Marvel being that person because she's such a fangirl. I think we assume that maybe she's the one that will have to go out and talk to other superheroes and try and have them remember their world. Maybe there's an element here where Jean Grey helps Peter not only remember who he is, but sort of like stay firm, and he's the one and then has to go out and get these heroes together again, or remember sort of their past. I think there are ways that they could certainly make this work in regards to Jean Grey, which is why she is my second person that like I said, I think she's Firestar, but it wouldn't surprise me if she's Jean Grey. And I do think that there is a reason why it could work for her as Jean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just speculation on my part though. So yeah, I like the idea, Marky. I really do. And then last but not least, we don't have it up here, but let me Ram Jam has a couple questions here. Do you think VR Troopers movie can now work with all the types of virtual reality? Oh, absolutely. I don't know if a movie can work. Maybe. You know what? I would say, yeah, I think a movie could work. Movie or television series can work. I've said this before, Stuart. I don't know why they're not trying to bring back VR Troopers at this point in time, or something along those lines. I mean, maybe because it's Metal Heroes, and I don't know if you would have to talk to Toei about trying to make that a reality, or if you can come up with an original premise that wouldn't step on Toei's toes. That's a lot of T's there. Toei's toes, to create like a VR Trooper-esque sort of thing. But I would be perfectly okay with American adaptation of VR Troopers, or a movie, television series wise, or movie. I just think because of the time frame that we are with the importance of virtual reality, why is nobody doing this? Why?
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, you're totally spot on. Now it's like kind of the good time to, if you're ever going to nostalgia bait with a show that a lot of people don't remember really well, I feel like VR Troopers is kind of the perfect one to do with how popular augmented VR is kind of becoming.
Did you ever watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit? If so, what did you think of it?
Oh, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? That's like one of my all-time favorite movies. I love that movie. Love that it's like, it films itself like it's a drama, but you can still like have all these great like cartoon gags in it. Not to mention it does some of the best like human cartoon interaction like I've ever seen. You know, some of the techniques they use is just incredible.
I think that's what really grabbed me as a kid was like the idea that it was drama heavy, but yet you had these characters in here that for me certainly made me laugh and just not take it seriously. But I just thought it was like really innovative and creative for the time that it was in. And I am hearing rumors, there are rumors going around that Avengers Endgame and Secret Wars might include some of the animated multiverse characters that they've introduced. I find that kind of silly, to be honest with you, and like in the realm of like Space Jam and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like we don't got to get that serious, y'all. Like if you want to, I can do live action versions of like some of the what if characters, but animated in the I think we're going a little bit too much there, but maybe I'm tripping. But yeah, no, I was always a big fan of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's a movie that I honestly can go back and watch at any time. And not just because of Jessica Rabbit. She was definitely one of my like childhood crushes as a kid for sure. But I think Who Framed Roger Rabbit still holds up today. It's always a fun movie for me.
Yeah.
I remember playing the Nintendo video game too back in the day. That's how old I am. What are your thoughts on the new documentary being released on Max called The Dark Side of Power Rangers? Is that a whole? I thought it was like just an episode, but is it a whole docuseries?
I did not know about this. Hang on.
I did see the trailer for it. It kind of mixes in like the Wild Force murder charge from the guy that played Cole, and then the suicide of JDF in there somewhere. It kind of made it feel like JDF was the one that killed the person. I don't know, it was super weird. Like the way that they filmed the trailer, it kind of came a little bit like misleading. But I get what they were trying to go for in the sense of like, you know, the Power Rangers has had a dark side, talking about some of the terrible things that have happened in the franchise. Even had like an interview with Nakia Burris, and she's crying in it too in the clip. So I don't know what she's referring to. Maybe the passing of JDF. I was under the impression that it's just like an episode inside of a bigger documentary. I didn't know it was like an entire documentary about the dark side of Power Rangers.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about this before, but now I'm definitely curious.
Yeah, I probably will certainly be checking it out. Has it released yet?
Not that I can't even find anything of it. I just Googled it, so I don't think so.
Let me see. There are a couple documentaries I still need to watch. I need to watch the Christopher Reeve Superman story. There was another one that I heard about, the Stan Lee documentary.
Oh, no. Okay. No? I'm going to go on a big rant here because, yeah. So what happened is this guy, he, if it's the one that I'm thinking of.
The final chapter, Stan Lee, the final chapter.
Maybe not then. Okay. There's a Stan Lee documentary in the works currently, which is a complete scam. So okay. This is the premise of it. So basically there was a guy who was working with Stan Lee who was going through elderly abuse, you know, which we had heard about beforehand. But like then Stan Lee made a video saying that it wasn't true. But of course that doesn't really mean anything because it's easy to get someone to say, hey, tell them we're not abusing you, you know, that kind of stuff. But this guy, he was saying that, okay. So if it's already out, it's not the one that I'm thinking of. So it's definitely not the one that Blossom's currently referring to. But basically this guy, he narrates in the trailer saying that I, you know, wasn't in a position to say or do anything, but I had a camera. So I filmed the whole thing. And now I want to release it and show everyone the abuse that he went through. But first I need you to help me finish this movie. So he started a Kickstarter basically to finish this movie. And he's asking for $100,000 despite the fact that according to him, he already has all the footage. So I don't know why you would need $100,000 to finish the movie if supposedly this is so important that everyone needs to see it. Now, this isn't me trying to say that I don't think Stan Lee went through abuse at all. I'm sure he did, especially, you know, from the little footage that he does show. You know, and it's just, I don't doubt it at all, you know, and it sucks that he went through that. But, you know, this isn't how you get justice. This is how you exploit something that happened. This is how you exploit it for your own personal gain. So, you know, when it comes to that documentary, that's that one that he's working on, fuck the guy working on it, you know, and fuck him for trying to say that he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart and that he's doing it to make a difference. No, you're doing it for profit, you piece of shit. If you actually wanted to do something about the abuse, you would have done it because you had the footage. You would have done it when it fucking happened. Sorry, I just had to get that out there. But man, sorry, that's the Stan Lee documentary that came up, and it's just like, that pisses me off so much.
Yeah, I think it's called Stan Lee: The Final Chapter or something like that. But yeah, it's been making its rounds as far as the news articles talking about it being in development. But yeah, it is from his assistant. Now with the Kickstarter and stuff, so that is the correct one you're talking about. Blossom, what's up, Blossom? Appreciate you coming through with the super chat. Stan Lee, that documentary was awesome. You definitely talk about another documentary, I would assume, before that for sure. But thank you so much, Blossom, for the super chat. Always appreciate you certainly coming through. But yeah, I don't know when that was it. Dark Side of the Power Rangers, Max streaming. Let's see. Comic book. Max's new documentary explores Dark Side of Power Rangers. Investigation Discovery will stream six new feature documentaries on Max later this month. It will focus on Hollywood, as the themes will be Hollywood demons. One of those documentaries will focus on Power Rangers franchise. After a general introduction, the trailer shifts to the focus of the man who was arrested in 2017 for bringing weapons into the Phoenix Comic-Con in an attempt to hurt and kill JDF.
I remember that.
The man responsible is arrested and sentenced to 25 years. The footage then moves to another tragic story. Evidence of the fatal stabbing for Ricardo Medina. And then footage then moves to JDF, who tragically died of suicide. Says the other documentaries will deal with topics like celebrity stalking. So it's 6 documentaries. Okay, so it's a couple documentaries. The real story behind the Iron Claw film, Violent Child Stars, Seventh Heaven, and The Real Housewives. Hollywood Demons will stream on Max on March 24th. So okay, so it looks like Hollywood Demons is the series, and it looks like within that series it's 6 episodes, I would assume. So one of the episodes is focused on Power Rangers.
Okay.
So yeah, I wonder if they had time to put the Hector David Jr. pushing an elderly man in the fucking parking lot in that one as well.
I wonder too.
And then what are your thoughts on the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes movie being released in theaters after it was shelved due to reconstruction at Warner Brothers Discovery? I'd be curious to see how a Looney Tunes movie does in this where we're at just in this time frame right now. I mean, kids do still love animation and Bugs Bunny, don't they? I don't know.
I hope so. I love the Looney Tunes, so I am definitely going to be watching this.
Yeah, so we'll see. But that will do it for all of our live viewer questions. Thank you so much, everybody that certainly participated here in today's episode. Always fantastic, as always, to hear from each and every one of you guys. But yeah, that will do it for live viewer questions, y'all. And yeah, if you ever want to submit a live viewer question over, just remember every Saturday afternoon or evening, we'll drop a post. Go over to our YouTube page, click on that post tab, and voila, you'll certainly find it there. Great show today, Stuart. Appreciate you coming through, man. We didn't hit our goal of 5 super chats today, but maybe another day we'll put up that goal next week and see if we can hit it and do some exclusive content here on the channel for rewarding our viewers for that goal. But we got anything working this week? Maybe I'll go out and check out another movie here this week. I didn't do a Mickey 17 review just because I was kind of blah about the movie. But maybe I'll see what else is out there this week and do a review for you guys. We definitely have Daredevil episode 4 set to go ahead and drop later on this week for you guys as well. So certainly look out for that. And of course, we'll do some videos for you guys in regards to any big news or trailers that wind up dropping that we feel are certainly worth talking about. Stuart, if people want to find you, man, on social media, though, where can they find you?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram and on Letterboxd.
And I'm kind of hoping that we might be able to get Indy back on the show here soon. I know he's been having some issues trying to get his internet up and running. I believe they might have come out and set up his internet at his new place. But I'm going to go ahead and keep you guys posted. Hopefully we can get Indy back on the show here as well and here pick his brain. It's been a minute. It's probably been like over a year since Indy's been on the channel, probably, right?
It's definitely been a minute, yeah.
At least for Hero Report. I know every now and then he's kind of maybe done a video every few months. Yeah, man, just trying to get him back as a regular here on Hero Report if we can.
Definitely. I feel like we're teasing Indy more than Jimmy Kimmel teases Matt Damon.
Well, Indy, sorry we didn't have enough time for you on today's show. Maybe we'll reschedule. Yeah, guys. Well, look, if you aren't following us on TikTok, please do. We got over 2,700 followers on TikTok right now. We'll post some clips up there. Might give some TikTok exclusive content for you guys. Do a bunch of movie trailers when they drop over on TikTok. We're at Hero Report, so follow us on TikTok. You can find us pretty much everywhere else on social media, as you see down below, at Hero Report. We post on a regular basis over on our Facebook page all the brand new news, trailers, posters, featurettes, behind the scenes. We keep you up to date all week long on our Facebook page. So if you're looking to make sure you're up to date throughout the week, that's certainly the spot to find us. And then we take 6 topics from there and discuss them here at the end of the week on A+ Hero Report. But other than that, guys, that will do it for us here today. We'll certainly see you guys next week. And in the meantime, do us a big favor, as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.